Yo, what's up guys? Hope you guys are doing good. So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was helped by Kami herself? Divine Intervention Naruto x Harem, Part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic SpiffySage. Link is in the description, and also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. If to the goddess. It was party time in Konoha no Sato. Today was the 10th of October, the same day that the Yondaime Hokage saved the village from the destruction of the Kyuubi, at the cost of his own life 7 years ago. Every year, in honor of the Yondaime, they have the Kyuubi festival. This is an official holiday where businesses close so everyone can just enjoy being around each other while partaking in the festivities. In the center of Konoha, where we find most of the festivities, we find a boy that looks to be about 7 years old with blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 whisker-like birthmarks on each side of his face. For clothes, he wore a neon orange jumpsuit, navy blue shinobi sandals, and a pair of green goggles resting on his forehead. The young boy was sitting up against a building watching the people enjoy the festivities with a sad visage on his face. He sees the other young boys and girls with their parents, playing games, and eating delicious foods. But he just gets to sit there with tears in his eyes. If you weren't from Konoha, you would wonder, where are the boy's parents? Why is he so sad? Shouldn't he be enjoying himself with his family and friends? But if you were from Konoha, this boy didn't even exist. This boy was an orphan known as Uzumaki Naruto. The demon brat. The damn fox spawn. That thing. Back. This boy is from Kyuubi no Yuko. The reason a good part of the village hates him for this, is that normal civilians, and a good number of the shinobi, do not understand the intricacies of, they believe that he is Kyuubi in human form. Or they do understand, and just want to hurt the fox through the boy. For this reason, the young boy was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 6. The reason being that the matron did not want to see the other young kids become corrupted by the demon. Life on the streets is hard. With there being so many people in the village, there were numerous homeless people in Konoha. That being said, there were food kitchens, and places for the homeless to stay, but not for the Kyuubi. They didn't let him in the kitchens or the shelters. Stores, restaurants, and food stands didn't allow him entry. People ignored him. He was not only denied the love of a parent due to being an orphan, he was also denied companionship from almost anyone. Most of the population simply ignored him. Not just ignored, though. The people refused to acknowledge him at all. He simply didn't exist. Some of those people didn't ignore his existence, but would openly curse him. They would tell their children not to associate themselves with him. They didn't tell them why, of course, due to a law made by the Yondaime Hokage, but nevertheless they told the children that he was dangerous, and that they were not to befriend him. Even at the academy which he started attending this year, he has no friends, due to all the kids listening to their parents. Most of the instructors seem to hate him also. Denying him help, ignoring him when he asks questions he has, or changing up his grades, so he would be at the bottom of the barrel for the year. There were 2 exceptions to this rule however. The Ichiraku family. This father-daughter duo were the operators of a popular ramen stand in the middle of the village, and they were kind to the young boy. They let him have meals in their stand, sometimes for free. The daughter, who was about a year or 2 older than him, often played with him when her father didn't need help at the shop. Due to being the only girl around his age that would play with him, he had developed a small crush on her. The Yondaime Hokage himself. Not many would expect that such the fierce, cunning, and powerful man that was Sarutobi Hiruzen would care for some random orphan, especially one that many thought to be a demon in human flesh. Many thought of this man as a grandfather figure because of his kindness. This kindness was surely shown to one that almost no one else would show it to. The man had gone out of his way to give the boy a stipend each month to get food, if he could get it, and an apartment about a month ago, after he discovered he was no longer in the orphanage. Even if it was a run-down shithole, it was a place that kept the rain and cool nights away. It was better than sleeping outside with no warmth at all. These 3 people are the only people that Naruto trusts. They have been the only lights in a world of darkness and neglect. They were precious to him, and he would do anything to keep them around. Not wanting to be reminded of being alone any longer, he decided to cut his losses at night, and just go to bed. Red Light District of Konoha. Walking home with his hands jammed in the pockets of his jumpsuit bottoms, Naruto was slowly strolling toward his apartment just looking around at the things around him. He would find the occasional girl that was an entertainer that would give him a small smile, and wave at him. He didn't know what they did, 7 years old, and quite frankly, if he did know or was older he wouldn't care. It was some form of affection to an affection-starved person. Thus, the little blonde just put on a big smile, and waved back. He eventually made it to the cheap complex that he stayed at. He walked up to his apartment, which was on the 2nd floor of the small cheap complex. When he got to the door, he fished out a key from one of the pockets of his jumpsuit. He unlocked his door, and opened it. "I'm home," he said, as he walked in, only to meet the silence of the empty residence. It was a rather small apartment, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a small kitchenette that was separated from the main living room by a small bar. He had a couch, a small TV, and a 2-person dining table on the other side of the bar. His room only contained a cheap futon for a bed, a nightstand, and a dresser. Like I said, it was a shithole, but it got the job done. He walked behind the bar, opened one of the cabinets, and grabbed a cup of instant ramen to have for his evening meal. After that he decided to just sleep for the night, as he had nothing else to do. He did his usual night routine, and got into his bed. He turned off the light, and closed his eyes. He was instantly pulled into a deep sleep, unaware of what exactly was about to happen. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes to find that he was laying down in the middle of a white room. Was it a room? He didn't see any walls or any end to the white space. What the hell? He thought, as he sat up, and noticed what he was wearing. He was dressed better than he had ever been in his life. He looked down to see himself barefooted, and fitted in a pure white yukata with a pure white sash around his waist. Okay, this is weird. First the room thing, now these clothes. What in Kami's name is going on here? He thought. I could answer that for you, Naruto-kun, said a voice that was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. He turned around to see a woman behind him a few feet away. The melodic voice came from a woman with milky skin and long, luscious dark blue hair that was tucked behind her ears and went down her back to stop just below her shoulder blades. She was also barefoot. But instead of a white yukata, she wore a pure white kimono with gold trim around her athletic frame that all women would turn green from jealousy of. She also had a golden obi tied around her waist. She had a heart-shaped face, a small nose, and small pink lips. But the feature that drew his attention were her eyes. Her eyes were pure white. You wouldn't even notice she had pupils if it wasn't for the faint outline of them. The thing that drew his attention was that they exuded a presence of pure power and authority, while also showing kindness and compassion. He felt so small and insignificant, but at the same time he felt as if he didn't want to be near anyone else. She moved toward him with the utmost poise and grace. She walked up to him and kneeled down, while placing a hand on his cheek affectionately. She smiled at him sweetly and said, "Don't be afraid of my child. I am not here to harm you." "Who are you?" he asked fearfully. "I am the one you people call Kami. I am who created the world and makes sure it stays going," she replied. Amazed and slightly doubtful at being in the presence of the one who basically made everything, he managed to get out tentatively, "Where am I?" "We are in your mind, young one. You could call it your mindscape. It is a place in your subconscious that you can control to your whim." Naruto wasn't buying it, and Kami could tell by the look on his face. "Here. Think about something to appear, and it will." He closed his eyes and thought about a steaming bowl of miso ramen. Proof when he looked down next to him, he saw the delicious noodles of heaven. Amazed, he looked back at the goddess. He looked back at the bowl and dug in as she began to speak. "Believe me now?" she asked with mirth in her eyes. "Other than showing you how to get ramen to appear in your mind, I called you here for something slightly bigger. I have brought you here because I have chosen you to be the one to save the world from a great terror. You will be a beacon of shining light in the darkness of the world. As that beacon, you will bring the world out of its darkness." "How can I do that? The people hate me and call me a demon. How could I do something that good if I did something so bad that people hate me?" he questioned with tears starting to form. Seeing this, the goddess scooped him up into her arms in a gentle hug. He blushed a bit at the close proximity to her, but unconsciously moved further into the hug. He felt all warm and fuzzy in his chest. It was kind of weird, but he liked it. "Don't worry about Naruto-kun. You are not a demon, as they say you are. You are a normal human boy like everyone else your age. And believe it or not, you did nothing wrong. They are stricken with grief over all they lost in the Kyuubi attack so long ago that they are blaming it all on you. Now don't get me wrong, you did nothing to warrant all this hate, and it is not right that you do this. But they do not understand what exactly happened that night." "Well then, what happened that night?" he asked, a bit miffed that all this was happening for no reason at all. "Well, the Kyuubi is a being made out of chakra, and given a form and a consciousness. As such, it cannot be killed like most think the Yondan did." "Do you know what a seal is in Naruto-kun?" she asked at the end. "Is it the paper that the old man puts all the stuff he uses in?" he answered. "Sort of. Fuinjutsu is a way to do many things through writing seals on many things with ink. Apply the necessary chakra, and you have the function of the seal that you desire. Most people like the Hokage, as per your example, use them for storing things in scrolls. But you can also do so much more. But one of the things that is sealed away periodically is, like the Kyuubi. But I don't understand what Kyuubi has to do with any of this." "It's dead," Naruto said, as he cut her off. At this she grew a tick mark. "It is not polite to interrupt, Naruto-kun. Now, as I was saying before, you cut me off. Kyuubi isn't dead, as I said before. It has to be sealed away. And things as powerful as the Kyuubi can only be sealed in children." Naruto's tears returned, and he buried his face into her frame, as he realized what this meant. "So I am a demon?" he sobbed out into Kami's shoulder. She tightened her grip around him, and calmed him down by whispering soothing things into his ear. He eventually snuggled into her embrace, and calmed down, as she continued. "Don't cry, my child. You are not a demon. Does a scroll become a kunai because you store one away in it? No. You are a special Naruto-kun. You know what sorrow is, and you know what it is like to want to protect others. That is why I have chosen you to save the world from its darkness. But how can I do that if no one is willing to help me but the old man, Tuichi Ajisan, and Aim-chan? He asked. Don't you know who I am, Naruto-kun? I am the one who has called you to do this, and you don't think I will help you along the way. I plan to make you the most powerful shinobi that the world has ever seen, maybe even more so than the Rakuto Sennin. To do so, I will give you several gifts along the way, she said. The first will be a change to your body. You will be healthy, fit, and will have extreme stamina. Even though you are only able to buy instant ramen at the moment, I will modify your body so that it will not stunt your growth. For, as you are now, you will be short and have baby fat when you start your shinobi career. Next, I will give you a sharp analyzing mind. This is arguably the greatest gift I will give you. It may not seem as powerful as the others, but it is what will get you out of more situations than you could count. The third thing I will give you is a mastery over your affinity. You are attuned to the element of wind. You have heard stories of how great the Nidaime Hokage was with his mastery over water, but I will give you an even greater mastery over wind. You will be so good with this element that with training, you could be able to pull off sub-elements with this. Usually you could only do that if you had a Kekkei Genkai, but I will allow you to have access through them if you show great dedication in your training. You will have to work with this mastery, but it will come quickly and easily if you put in the right amount of effort. The last gift I will give to you is a surprise. You are not ready for this gift yet. I will bestow it upon you at a time when you are in need, she said with a soft smile. Kami-chan, he said, trying to get her attention. Yes, my child. Can I tell the old man and Aim-chan about this? Well, I think it would be wise to tell the Hokage about it, since he should be able to train you or help you train. But I would advise against telling your little friend at the ramen stand for now. You might tell her in the future, but I would advise against you doing it at this time. Now it is time that you wake up and get ready for the academy, Naruto-kun. It is morning time now, and you have some learning to do, she said with a sweet smile. Naruto started to panic when he heard this. She was so nice to him, and now she was leaving him all alone again. She was so nice to him. He didn't want to be alone. He liked being hugged like this. He wanted her to stay. What is he going to do now? The goddess saw the look of panic and fear appear on his face. She frowned as she pushed him away a bit to look into his eyes, as she asked, "What is the matter, my child?" He diverted his eyes and mumbled something. "What was that, Naruto-kun? Do you have to leave?" He said almost so softly that she almost didn't hear him again. He didn't want to be alone again. It felt like he finally had a mother to love him like all the other kids did, and it felt really good. He didn't want to lose the warm feeling in his chest when she hugged him. "Unfortunately, I do. I have to keep running the world, and you have to attend the academy." When he heard this, his heart dropped. He lost the warm feeling and felt well. He really didn't feel anything. It was like his insides went numb. Actually, it wasn't so numb. It hurt. He thought he had finally found someone that was like a mother, only to have her ripped away. It really did hurt. "But I think I could visit you every now and then," she said. Hold the phone. A little sliver of hope started to show on his face. "I think I could be able to visit a couple times a week, and on your birthdays if you are a good boy. Maybe I could even spare a few extra nights a week if you are especially diligent in your training." She finished with a small smile. She could tell he needed someone to fill the parental void and show him some love. Who better to do it than the one who knows everything and made everything? The young blonde was ecstatic, overjoyed, elated. You could not even describe how happy he was with words, honestly. He finally had something akin to a parent. She was kind to him. She showed him affection. She gave him gifts. And she wasn't leaving. For good anyway. He was broken from his thoughts when she began to speak. "I really would like to stay, but I have to get back to heaven. And you, little savior, need to wake up," she said with a smile as she tapped him on the nose. He hugged her one last time for the night as she stood up. "Okay. I hope you come back soon, Ka-chan." When the goddess heard what the young boy in her arm called her, her eyes widened. She then smiled and hugged him a little tighter. "Don't you worry, I will come back soon. Even sooner if you train hard, my little Naruto-chan." As soon as he heard her say that, he was gently expelled from his mindscape. Naruto's room the next morning. Naruto's eyes fluttered open as he was expelled from the mindscape. He remembered the time with his new surrogate mother. But then his new mind kicked in overanalyzing things. Was it all a dream? Was he really special? Did he really have a new mom just like all the other kids? He thought about this when he went into his kitchen to get some instant ramen for breakfast. He got it out and was heating it up when he saw a piece of paper on the other side of the counter. He went over to it and picked it up. It was a note. He read aloud to the empty apartment what was written on it. "Naruto-chan. I knew your mind would kick in and wonder if last night was real. This note should answer the need to talk to the Hokage today. Tell him you know of your tenant and to send all others out of the room. He will be able to help you in your training. If he doesn't believe you, then tell him to expect a change in prophecy from the elder Gama-senin. Do well in your studies and train hard. See you soon, my little Naruto-chan. Ka-chan." After being thoroughly reassured that it all was real, he made his way through his morning routine and was out the door roughly 20 minutes before class started. Outside the Hokage Tower, that afternoon. Class was normal today. Nothing really happened that normally didn't, except Naruto tried to pay attention just a little bit harder than normal. Just a few history lectures, and he was set for the day. Now came the real task of the day. Talking to the old man about what happened. Even though the old man was one of the people who was friendly to him, he didn't think for 1 second that the man would buy the story that he had met Kami, and that he was now on track to be as strong as the Rakuto Sennin. He went up to the top floor of the Hokage Tower, and went up to the secretary. He asked her if he could talk to the Hokage. She was about to slap the demon across the face, and tell him that the Hokage didn't have time for the likes of demons, when she heard a door open, revealing the Hokage. Despite his age and physical limitations, he was not the Professor Shinobi no Kami for nothing. His mental perception and sensor abilities had stayed sharp, so he was easily able to sense the young boy arriving at his office. "Hello, Naruto-kun. Why don't you come inside?" the old man said with an inviting smile on his face. Once they got inside the office, the old geezer sat down behind his office, while Naruto sat on the portable couch in front of the desk. After they got settled in, the Hokage cleared his throat and began speaking. "So Naruto-kun, what can I help you with today?" With an uneasy look on his face, Naruto asked if he could send out all of the other people in the office. Hiruzen definitely likes the look on his face in conjunction with the request. "Why would I need to do that, lad? It's about my tenants. Anbu, leave us." As he said, these 4 figures phased into sight in 4 spots in the room. "Hi, Hokage-sama." And with that they phased out, as quickly as they came in. Hiruzen made sure to get the first question. "Now Naruto-kun, what do you mean it's about your tenants?" The young blonde sighed. "I know about the Kyuubi, and how Yondaime-sama sealed it into me on the day I was born." The elderly shinobi was floored. "I am not mad at you for not telling me, Gigi. I'm sure that you didn't tell me for a reason, and that you would have eventually told me, right?" The man was dumbfounded at this even more. How could his young surrogate grandson have such maturity and insight? Was this the same loud, little Hokage aspiring boy? He eventually broke himself out of his thoughts to ask some questions. "So Naruto-kun, how did you come by this information? And why are you so calm about this? Usually you would have yelled and screamed about me keeping something like this from you, if your old personality would have dictated your actions." Naruto then began telling the old man the tale of what happened to him in his sleep. As the story went on, the old man was getting more and more skeptical about his experience with the goddess that created all life. That this goddess had become a mother figure to a small orphan boy, and that she had given him gifts that would make him the strongest shinobi the world would ever see. "I know it's hard to believe it, Gigi, but my new mindset and maturity should prove it to you. Naruto-kun, I understand that you have matured much overnight. But this is just too much to believe. I think you just had a really realistic dream, my boy," he said, as he pondered what this dream could mean. He was again interrupted from his thoughts by the young blonde in front of him. "Kachan did give me one last piece of proof if you did doubt what happened." "Well, what would that be, Naruto-kun?" She said that the prophecy from the elder Gama Sennin would change. The old shinobi once again raised his eyebrow. What a bold prediction from such a small Kai. "Proof?" After the small explosion of smoke, there were 2 figures. One was a tall man that stood about 6'4" with white hair and tied back in a spiky ponytail. On his head was a hit I-8 with the kanji for oil. The second was a small green toad with grayish hair and a purple cloak around his body from the neck down. These are 2 of the Gama Sennin. Jiraiya of the Sannin and Fukasaku, head of the Gama summoning clan. Jiraiya was the first to speak, as he stepped forward, not noticing the small child in the room being hyper-focused on the oddity that just occurred. "Sensei, the prophecy has changed." The Hokage's jaw literally hit the floor, and the room was soon so silent, you could hear a pin drop. "What did you just say?" asked the Hokage quietly after a few seconds of pause. His students started to reply. "I said that I heard what you said," he snapped, as he turned to Fukasaku. "Is this true, Fukasaku-sama?" The old toad spoke up. "Yes, it is quite true what Jiraiya-chan said." They were all startled when they saw the youngest person in the room point his finger at Sarutobi, and yell out, "I told you, Gigi. I told you what Kachan said to me was true. I definitely believe you now, Naruto-kun. I think I will be able to help out with this training of yours," the old Kage said, smiling at what this young boy could accomplish with the right training. Jiraiya took a look at the 7-year-old after hearing his name. His eyes widened as it clicked to the kid was. "Wait a minute. Sensei, did you say that this boy is named?" "Yes, Jiraiya-kun. This is Uzumaki Naruto. And wait until you hear the story of what happened and what will happen." And so the Hokage went on for about an hour, with the details of what Naruto described to him with the young boy, confirming what went on during his time in the mindscape. Needless to say that Jiraiya was dumbfounded at the revelations. Who wouldn't be? Kami basically adopted this kid, and is making him the strongest being ever. "So, old man, are you going to start my training?" Naruto asked. "Well, Naruto-kun, I am not the one that will be training you. said the elderly Sarutobi. Naruto started to freak out when he heard this. Then how am I going to get super strong? He asked while frantically flailing his arms around. That's when Jiraiya stepped forward and put his hand on his godson's shoulder. That is where I come to, Gaki. I will be the one who will train you from here on out, if what I'm thinking is the same thing as sensei over there. Why would you train me? I want special Hokage training, exclaimed Naruto. Well, unless you want to pass up on Yandame's training, then he left it hanging, knowing full well from the sandame of Naruto's hero. I can train like Yandame did. How? Well, considering that I trained the Yandame personally, I think I could manage to get you just as strong, don't you think? Jiraiya said with a slight smirk. Yada. I'll be stronger than Yandame, shouted the excited blonde. The shouting ended when Jiraiya smacked him across the back of the head. Easy, Gaki. Don't get too worked up. Now, if you think that you were able to handle some of my super special Hokage training, then go to Training Ground 7 tomorrow afternoon. If you are not there, as soon as the academy is over, then I will deem you unfit for my little program. Naruto was fervently nodding at this. Alright then, go get some rest before tomorrow, then, Gaki. Trust me, you will need it. Again Naruto nodded, and headed straight to his apartment to rest up for tomorrow, despite it only being around 5 o'clock. After he was gone, Jiraiya turned his old sensei. He's so much like them. He looks like a carbon copy of Minato, and his personality screams Kushina, he said with a small smile. The Hokage nodded with a small smile of his own. Yes, he is, isn't he? Now on the next subject, his face gained a serious look to it. How are you going to go about breaking your relationship with him? Jiraiya's brow furrowed in thought, as he brought his hand up to cup his chin. I don't know, sensei. I've been gone from his life for 7 years. I'm here now, and it will stay that way. I think I will break it to him when I tell him about his parents. Hopefully he will be able to understand my position by then. But that would be a few years from now. At least I'll be a constant in his life from this point on. Oh? And what of the spy network, Jiraiya-kun? The older of the two asked. How will you keep up with your duties if you are stuck here with your godson? Not that I necessarily disagree with your decision, but the spy network is crucial to our security, as a nation. Jiraiya came up with a more confident look with this question. That's easy, sensei. I can mainly use my summons to gain the intel, they help me out anyway. I can also get away from time to meet some of my higher profile contacts, as well as do some research for my books then too. He finished with a lecherous grin, and a drop of blood coming out of his nose. Hiruzen gained the same visage as his student as he thought of the sage's novels. He then pulled it together, wiped his bloody nose with his sleeve, and cleared his throat. As much as I would love to discuss your newest novel, I really should be getting back to this ever-growing mountain of paperwork. Jiraiya nodded. Alright, sensei. I'll come by tomorrow after our little training session. And with that he opened the window and jumped out. Why doesn't he just use the damn door? He thought, as his secretary brought in another stack of papers, as tall as his desk. No. He yelled, as he got to looking at the stacks of paper that were more intimidating than Uchiha Madara himself. We now find our young hero panting on the ground waiting for the old white-haired man to come and test him. He had just sprinted out of class, as soon as Iruka-sensei said they were dismissed. He was broken from his thoughts, as a cloud of smoke came into existence with a poof, as the smoke cleared he saw the tall, white-haired guy he was waiting on. Alright, Gaki, come over here, and we'll introduce ourselves to each other. The tall man said, as he sat down with his back against a large tree. The young blonde sat down right in front of Jiraiya Indian style, and waited for the man to start speaking. So, Gaki, why don't you introduce yourself, and I'll do the same afterwards. What do you want me to say? Asked Naruto. Just some basic stuff. Likes, dislikes, dreams. Stuff like that. Well, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, jiji, ka-chan, and anything that is orange. I dislike people that make fun of ramen and oranges, and the people that act like I'm not there. I want to be the strongest shinobi and Hokage ever, so I can protect my precious people, and so that ka-chan will be proud of me. He finished with his patent-pending shit-eating fox grin. Jiraiya, when he heard the part of the kid's mom, was confused, but then it hit him that he was talking about Kami, who had apparently taken a shine to the kid. Well, Gaki, those are some good goals. Well, I guess I should tell you a bit about myself. He disappeared. Poof, he appeared with a shit-eating grin of his own. Well, on what the hell? Jiraiya was posing while on top of a giant orange toad. I am the one man I wish to be. The one the ladies wish to be with. The great, the gallant toad Sennin of my Bakizan. Jiraiya of the Sannin. So Gaki, you impress? Asked the perverted sage with a smug look. Why are you on top of a giant frog? Jiraiya fell off the toad right onto his face with a giant sweat drop on his forehead as the toad dispelled. He jumped up immediately. ITSA toad, Gaki. He screamed. I guess if you don't think much of them, I would allow you to summon them or train you at all. He left it hanging, and turned his back to the blonde. No. Wait. Naruto shouted back at Jiraiya. And I didn't say I didn't like them. I just asked why you were on top of such a big one. He screamed, waving his arms around frantically. Jiraiya smirked. He turned around with a serious look on his face. Are you sure that you don't think that they are all gross and weak? That's what it looked like when you looked at me on top of Gaminasu-san. I swear I think that they are awesome. Did you see how big he was, plus he's orange? The blonde exclaimed. Jiraiya took an analyzing look at the boy, then burst out laughing. Naruto just stood there and was wondering what in Ka-chan's name was going on. Oh, you should have seen the look on your face, he said, wiping a tear from his eye. I was just kidding. I'm still gonna train you. Wait, you are training me? No, Tess? Asked the perplexed 8-year-old. Nah. I thought about it a little bit, but I figured I wouldn't be able to get anything out of a kid that just started the academy not even a few months ago. You barely know how to throw a shuriken or kunai. How would you possibly stand up to any test I could give you? So I thought starting with a blank slate and building you up the way you should be is the way to go, explained the white-haired sage. So we are starting training today? Asked Naruto hopefully. You're damn right we are, kid. First I am going to explain to you the basics of being a shinobi. Then we will decide what kind of shinobi you want to be, like what aspect of being a shinobi you will specialize in. You will be well versed in all aspects, being a student of mine, but you will decide what you want to be the best in. Then after that we will get you started on your physical training, since you said that Kami-sama gave you a body that will allow you to do so. Then to conclude the day, we will be moving you into my house. That way I can get you the right kinds of food, clothing, other things you wouldn't have had living on your own. Outlined Jiraiya. When he looked at the child, he had tears in his eyes. Boy, Gaki. What's the matter? He didn't get to finish, as a little blonde bullet crashed into his stomach, wrapping the sage in a hug, making Jiraiya fall on his ass. Thank you. No one has ever been so nice to me except for Ka-chan. The boy said in a muffled voice due to his face being buried in Jiraiya's stomach. Jiraiya wrapped his arms around his godson. He didn't realize that the kid's life was deprived of being treated as a normal kid until this moment. The guilt of not being there for his own godson crashed down on him at this moment. He soon crushed that feeling, and a determined look in his eyes. Don't worry, Naruto. It won't be like that anymore if I have anything to say about it, he thought. They sat there until the blonde was calmed down. Jiraiya gently set Naruto on the ground in front of him. Alright then, let's get started with the shinobi explanation part. There are things about being a shinobi that we don't like doing. You need to know this before you start so you don't find that you don't want to do this anymore in the middle of a mission. That could get you, your team, and/or your client killed. Are you following me? Jiraiya asked. Naruto nodded. Okay, good. Now shinobi are people who are enlisted in service to their respective village. We are people that do things most people can't or won't do. We are able to spit fire, and things like that, but we also do things we don't like. I'm not going to lie to you, Naruto. We lie, we steal, and we kill people. We don't do it because we like it, well normal shinobi anyway, but we do it to protect our precious people, and our village. Do you understand? Being a shinobi is a horrible thing, but some need to do it to protect the village. Now my question to you. Do you want to be able to protect those precious to you, in exchange for being a shinobi? Naruto looked away, and thought about it. I don't want to kill people. Ka-chan said I have to save the world. But she also said I would be the strongest shinobi ever. I guess it leaves me no choice. Jiraiya-sensei. The blonde getting said man's attention. I want to be a shinobi. I want to be able to protect my precious people, and make Ka-chan proud. He said with the fire in his eyes. Very well. You will from this point on be my apprentice, and I will be your master. You will answer only me. You will do as I say, and I will make you stronger than you could ever imagine in order to protect your precious people. Hi, Jiraiya-sama, said Naruto. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and flicked the boy on his forehead. What the hell was that? You don't seem like the formal type of kid. Call me sensei, said Jiraiya. Now we get onto the part where we decide what kind of aspect you want to specialize in, he said. There are many aspects that you could focus on. The three main facets of being a shinobi are what most specialize though, so we will go over those, and two more that I think you would like. The first is Jujutsu. This is the art of hand-to-hand combat. To specialize in this you will need to be at the top of the pyramid in your physical conditioning. You will need to be faster and stronger than almost any other shinobi. Your punches, kicks, and reactions will be faster, and you will be able to take almost every single shinobi in the world in a Jujutsu match, if you were to do this. But at the same time most that choose this path are prone to falling into illusions or getting hit with ninjutsu. The next is Genjutsu. This is the art of illusions. The two things you need for this are excellent chakra control, which with your already huge reserves will be a problem, and an insanely creative imagination, which you have judging by your pranks. Being a specialist means that you can trap someone in an illusion with ease, and be able to keep them in it long enough for you to get an edge. People that specialize in this are not typically good hand-to-hand fighters. It is very easy to beat one of these people if you are able to detect and break out of illusions easily. Honestly, my sucks. If you choose this we will have to find you a tutor or another teacher altogether for it. The third path you could take would be to be a ninjutsu specialist. This as well, ninjutsu means ninja technique. This is what I specialize in. This is using the elements, and what we call shape manipulation to turn it into, like a big fireball or my summoning a toad. To do this, you will need decent chakra control. You are lucky, and I would say perfect for this role, as you have level chakra reserves, as an 8-year-old. I would advise you to take this route, but you will choose what you want to do. Ninjutsu specialists aren't as good at hand-to-hand combat or illusions, but aren't just slouches at them either. Are you still with me? Naruto nodded. The fourth path I will offer to help you specialize in is the art of sealing. You can do almost anything with a seal. He pulls a scroll from a pocket on his pants. See this scroll? He got a nod. See this kunai? Another nod. Watch this, he said, as he channeled chakra to store the kunai in the scroll. This is the most common use of, which you have probably seen Sarutobi-sensei do. You know how the Kyuubi is sealed within you. His young charge once again nodded. That is arguably the most powerful of examples of the sealing arts. Hyunjutsu users are not very common anymore, but you are looking at one of the few masters you will see. I am the best seal user in the village, even better than Sarutobi-sensei. As he said that, Naruto's eyes went wide. I will teach you some about it later regardless, but you can choose if you want to specialize in it. The last is Kenjutsu and Bukijutsu. This is the art of using swords and other weaponry. Like Taijutsu, you will need to have great speed and strength. You will be able to use almost any kind of sword or projectile. Like scythes, katanas, throwing weapons, najitanas, and so much more. You won't be as good at ninjutsu but your taijutsu will still be pretty good. Okay, so I know that was one long-ass explanation, but those are the main things that I will offer to teach you. Do you have any idea what you would like to do? He asked his now apprentice. Naruto cupped his chin and stroked his non-existent beard in thought. Well, I don't think I want to do taijutsu since I will be well-rounded anyway. And sounds like it will leave me too vulnerable, and you said it will be harder anyway. I think I want to specialize in what you do. To get the best results from your training, I would need to do what you do. Ninjutsu sounds like a winner to me. Hyunjutsu and Kenjutsu both sound cool too, but since you said that I am almost built for ninjutsu, it sounds like that would be the best thing. I was hoping you would say that. I will be able to teach you almost anything you would need to know for ninjutsu, plus there are so many things you can do with it to make it your own. Jiraiya then stood up and brushed himself off. He started walking into the clearing of the training field and motioned for Naruto to follow him. Alright Gaki, now it is time to start your physical conditioning. Even though you are going to be a taijutsu specialist, no student of mine will be any slouch in his condition. Now for a warm-up you will run 5 laps around the field, do 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 pouches, and kick each on the training dummy here, he said, as he motioned to said wooden dummy. And with that Naruto started on his little routine. After about 45 minutes, he was hunched over with his hands on his knees, panting, and taking deep breaths. Kami, sensei. This sucks. I'm only 7, too tired to catch the verbal tick. You're right, kid. That was just the warm-up. You get a 5-minute break before the real torture training starts, Jiraiya said with an evil smirk. 3 hours later, we find Naruto piggybacking on his master's back. They were on the way to Naruto's apartment to pack up his stuff in order to move it all to Jiraiya's place. They finally arrived after about 15 minutes of rooftop jumping. When they got there Naruto got out and unlocked the door to his small 1-bedroom apartment. When they got there Naruto immediately went to the cupboard that was filled with endless amounts of instant ramen. When Jiraiya saw this his eyes bugged out of his head. Whoa there Gaki. You are not going to eat any of that instant cup crap. Why not? Ramen is the food of the gods. Pretty sure Ka-chan eats it all the time, too. Heaven. Up on her throne, Kami was digging into a large bowl of shrimp ramen as she sneezed. The sneeze caused her to drop the bowl, making it shatter when it hit the ground. Damn it, she exclaimed as she made a broom, dustpan, and mop appear to clean up the mess, while grumbling about having to make a new bowl. Naruto's apartment. Jiraiya sighed. It may be good every once in a while, but it isn't very nutritious. With the workout you just got, you need to get protein, and you need to get rehydrated. You need something with a good amount of meat or fish in it, and you need lots of water or shinobirade. Now let's get you all packed up, and then we can get some of the good stuff on our way to my place. So they did just that. They spent another 20 minutes putting all his important stuff in scrolls, and left the rest to whoever wanted the stuff. On the way they ate some curry rice with lots of beef, and some lemon lime. Once done they went on to Jiraiya's large 3-bedroom townhouse, that was pretty close to the old man's office. By the time they were done unpacking, and getting his room somewhat set up, it was dark, and Naruto was exhausted. The second he was done he said goodnight to Jiraiya, and crashed on his bed. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes, and found the white wall-less room that he was in last night. He got excited, as he figured that meant he was able to see his Ka-chan again. He surveyed in front of himself, and when he didn't find anything whipped around to see if he could find his new mother. When he had looked all around, and wasn't able to find her, he looked down with a crestfallen look on his face, and slumped. I guess she is too busy to spend time with me. I mean she kinda does run the world. Now why would you think that, my sweet Naruto-chan? You shouldn't look so sad. You look so much better with a smile on that cute little whiskered face of yours. He heard a pair of slender arms wrapped around his little frame. He immediately turned around and hugged the person with an elated look on his face. Ka-chan, you're here. You're really here, exclaimed the excited 8-year-old. Of course I am. I said I would be back if you did, as I asked you, and you did. I wouldn't dare miss this when you have been such a good boy, my little Naruto-chan. And so Naruto spent the rest of the night with the goddess that created the universe, talking about his day and cuddling with his most precious person. Time skip 1.5 years from the start of his training. We now find our young hero finishing up his kicks to the wooden training post. The year had done some good for the blonde. He had grown to be one of the taller boys in his class, right behind Aburame Shino and Akamichi Chouji. Turns out when you eat some stuff other than ramen every day, you grow a good amount. Also, he had a little help with his healing factor enhancing his growth, along with his Ka-chan's advancements to his body. Speaking of the goddess, she still visited her adopted son about 3 times a week. She would do it randomly, but he enjoyed it nonetheless. Back to his growth, he had lost all baby fat and had grown a little muscle. Not much to show, but hey, he was freaking 9.5. 97, 98, 99, 100. Pant alright, now where is the pervert now? I finished my warm-up. As time went on, he had begun to begin his warm-up, which had increased whenever Jiraiya had deemed it necessary, right when he got to the training field, instead of waiting on his master to say to begin. He had also learned of his master's books and research. Let's just say he was persuaded to dislike the habit courtesy of his Ka-chan. Shiver, his Ka-chan was scared when she got angry about his master's perving. She didn't seem too happy when she had to give him the talk either. Let's just say that it's a good thing that his sensei wasn't able to come into the mindscape. He made his way to the bathhouses, and found his master using his favorite peeping hole to peer into the ladies' side of the bathhouse, while scribbling into his infamous snow pad with a perverted leer, and blood dripping from his nose. He walked up right behind Jiraiya, and yelled, "Let's go, Iro-senin, we got some training to do." Gah! Jiraiya jumped and screamed, as he banged his forehead against the outer wall of the bathhouse. He heard the ladies screaming, "Get the pervert," so he grabbed his apprentice, and made use of the Shunshin body flicker, to appear in the middle of training ground 7. He then unceremoniously dropped his blonde charge onto his stomach. Said boy landing with a thud and an oomph. "What have I told you about interrupting my research, Gaki?" asked Jiraiya with a slight scowl. "What have I told you about peeping during the time I'm supposed to be training, you damn pervert?" The sage's apprentice shot back with a slight scowl of his own. "If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, brat. I'm not a pervert. I'm a super pervert," said the sage, adopting the good guy pose with blood running from his nose and his eyes bugged out. "Sure you are, Iro-senin. Can we just get to today's training?" the blonde asked. During the year, they had exclusively worked on his physical conditioning and strength. He was now faster than most fresh genin, and about as strong as a seasoned genin. They had not worked on anything other than his strength and speed, something that irked Naruto to no end. "You already did your warm-up, I assume?" asked the sage. "Yep. Did that while you were busy writing your stupid smut," jabbed Naruto. "It is not stupid, Gaki. You just haven't come to understand the beauty of the female body yet." Naruto looked at Jiraiya with a deadpan look. "I know what a beautiful female looks like, but Ka-chan would kill me if I ended up a pervert like you." "Whatever. But now onto your training for today. We will warm up tomorrow to 40 laps, and 200 of everything else." Naruto's eyes bugged out of his head, and gave a what? "Calm down, Gaki. I'm doing this because we will no longer be doing only physical conditioning and strength training. We will start your training in the Taijutsu style that I have chosen for you. In about a month we will start at the basic academy, and a few others. But right now show me the katas for the academy style Taijutsu." Naruto started to go through the katas that Mizuki-sensei had tutored him on personally during lunch, in order to help him be stronger than the others, mind you. As he was about halfway through with the katas, Jiraiya stopped him. "Gaki, if this is some kind of joke, you need to stop. I want you to show me what you learned in the academy lessons. You are usually serious during our training sessions, so get normal and let go," said Jiraiya. Naruto looked at him with a confused face. "This is what I have been taught in the academy. Mizuki-sensei helps me personally during lunch on Taijutsu days so I can be ahead of the competition." When Naruto looked up at his master, he got scared. Jiraiya was so pissed it wasn't funny. "That bastard," he muttered, as he turned to his apprentice. "Naruto, he hasn't been teaching you right. You're off balance, overextending on every single one of your strikes, and leaving vital points wide open. You would be destroyed by any half-decent genin that is somewhat serious about what he does. Your helpful sensei is sabotaging you because you are." Naruto was shocked. Mizuki-sensei was always so nice to him, so was Iruka-sensei. He just thought that he was getting better by accepting the extra lessons. He was broken from his thoughts by his master, as he put a hand on his shoulder. "Come on, we are going to see Sarutobi-sensei to look at the academy progress reports." And with that they sunshined to the Hokage tower. Hiruzen's office. Hiruzen was finishing up his last stack of paperwork for the day as he heard a knock on the doors to his office. Come in. Jiraiya walked in with Naruto right behind him. Ah, Jiraiya-kun and Naruto-kun, what can I do for you this evening? The Hokage asked. Sensei, I am not going to sugarcoat this. Naruto is being sabotaged in the academy Taijutsu lessons. I want to look at the progress reports for his test scores to see if he is being sabotaged in other areas as well, said the Gama-senin. Hiruzen's face hardened at this. Well, that is some serious news. He pushed the intercom that was set up at his secretary's desk. Naoki-chan, bring me the past year's academy reports for the second-year students. Hi, Hokage-sama. He replied over the small speaker. 5 minutes later, the young brunette that we now know as Naoki walked in with 5 small record books. Here are the last 6 quarterly progress reports, Hokage-sama. Thank you, Naoki-chan. You are dismissed. She nodded and went back to her desk. As the two older shinobi looked at the records, they found that he was indeed being sabotaged. Sensei, as his legal guardian, and as his master, I am withdrawing him from the academy, Jiraiya said. Jiraiya-kun, don't make such hasty decisions. I will reprimand the teachers and set this straight. Sandium said to his old student. No, Sensei, they will continue to harm my student's progress if he keeps attending that academy. He, as my apprentice, will be withdrawn from the academy, and I will take him on a training trip. I can teach him the history he will need to know about the village and of the previous wars. 6.5 years training with me will do him much better than 6.5 years training at that rundown academy that is only fit to teach civilians, said the enraged Jiraiya. I am sorry, Jiraiya-kun, but you will not take him out of the village. I can understand taking him out of the academy, but I cannot allow you to take him out of the village. Being that the council will never allow you to take him out of the village for more than a few months. And that would only be for missions once he is older, explained Hiruzen with a tired look on his face. Actually, Sensei, you cannot prevent me from taking him out of the village. We signed the papers a year ago for Uzumaki Naruto to legally become my apprentice, thus granting me custody of him since he is an orphan and a ward of the village. I have every right, as his master, and even more so, as his legal guardian to do whatever the fuck I want with the kid. I will be taking him with me, said the Sannin with a triumphant smirk on his face. Hiruzen knew he was beaten, but he didn't really care since the council was also beaten. He knew that Naruto would be better off if he left the village with Jiraiya anyway. Just like Minato, he could become one hell of a shinobi if he went on one of the training trips with Jiraiya. And this one was twice the length of the trip he took Minato on. Granted, Minato was already a chunin, but still. Naruto could become one hell of a shinobi. Very well, Jiraiya-kun, as long as the council is put on their ass, and can't make more paperwork for me, then I am all for it. If you can do what you did to make the Yondaime so strong in 3 years, then I can't wait to see Naruto-kun's results when this is all over. You think you can make him level? Sarutobi said, eliciting an awestruck look from the youngest member in the room. Down in level. Now Naruto just couldn't wait for this training trip now. He would be shaking in anticipation until they left. Sensei, if we come back, and he isn't at least joining level, then I want you to take away my title, as a Sannin. Jiraiya said with mirth in his voice. That's right, Gigi. Get ready to give up that hat, cause when I get back it's gonna be mine. The ecstatic said. The Sandaime chuckled at his surrogate grandson's enthusiasm. We'll see about Naruto-kun. He turned to the last loyal Sannin. When do you plan on leaving, Jiraiya-kun? Well, seeing how I literally just decided to take him on this trip, I think we will end up leaving in about a week. You know, to let the kid say goodbye, and let him relax before I get to torture, I mean train him for 5.5 years. If I am going to do it, I will do it right. Enhanced diet, lots of those vitamin supplements, and a shitload of physical conditioning. I'm going to have this kid walking around stronger than Senju Hashirama was at his age. That is quite the statement, Jiraiya-kun. But back to what the council would protest, will you be taking anyone else for his safety? You are currently one of the top shinobi in the village, but there would be many threats to our most valuable military asset, should be found out. You should consider taking someone for protection, and also for some extra insight in his training, advised Sandaime. Yeah, I guess that does sound like a good idea used by Jiraiya. Oi, Gaki. He got the attention of his young apprentice. Going back to the house, I need to talk about some important stuff with Sensei. Here, go get some of that Ichiraku ramen you are always so crazy about, he said while handing him 500 ryo. The blonde didn't question what he was told to do, as he was replaced with a Naruto-sized dust cloud, as soon as he had taken the cash out of his master's hand. It was ramen for Kachan's sake, don't hate it. Jiraiya then turned back to his old sensei. I know who I want to take with us. It's just one person, and he would be a monumental help. And who would that be, Jiraiya-kun? Had Kakashi. No? Sensei, we have already decided that Naruto will be a ninjutsu specialist. Besides me, there would be no better sensei in the world than Kakashi. The man who has learned over 1,000 would be perfect for Naruto. Being in Uzumaki, and is the perfect ninjutsu student for myself and Kakashi. His reserves are months away from rivaling my own after a year of training. Need I remind you that Kakashi is one of the 5 or 6 people that know his heritage. It's his sensei's son, meaning he is one of the few who would treat and train him fairly. That being said, Kakashi is a must if we take someone else with us. Jiraiya explained. Jiraiya-kun, he is the best Anbu we have at the moment. He is needed for the security of the village. If nations such as Iwa knew that you and Kakashi had left the village for 6.5 years, we would surely be attacked. Sensei, this is a training trip that is unannounced to the world. How the hell would they find out? Plus, are you forgetting who I am? I am this village's spy master. While I am training the Gaki, I will be more free to meet up with contacts. I would definitely hear of any attacks on the village before they happen. Have you forgotten that I have spies in each of the major villages, and in some of the minor ones, as well? Asked Jiraiya. Well, I guess I do not need to alert anyone else, but my advisors about this, said the elderly shinobi. It would be best if you keep this a secret from the council until about a week after we leave. The civilian council, as well as Danzo, will try to keep him in the village at all costs, recommended the Gama-senin. Yes, that is a very good idea. The Sandaime thought about things for a moment. Very well, you will take Naruto-kun out of the village for 6.5 years. The participants involve you, Naruto-kun, and elite Hada Kakashi, who will be briefed by me personally in 2 days' time. He will meet you in a week from today at the North Gate at 8 AM. I will send you missions every once and a while via my Sir summons. This will help keep you financially stable while you travel, even though you don't need it due to your books, but this will also help Naruto-kun gain experience with handling clients. Do you accept these terms? Concluded the Hokage. Sounds good to me, sensei. I'll go inform the Gaki. You going to come see us off in a week? Asked the Sannin, as he opened the window to jump out. I wouldn't miss it, said the old Hokage, as he lit his pipe and took a drag. Oh, and Jiraiya. Yes, sensei. Use the damn door next time, the older of the two said, as he let out a tired sigh. Not a chance, sensei, the spy master said with a smirk as he jumped out the window. A week later at the northern gate, Naruto and Jiraiya arrived at the gate via Shunshin. They arrive only to see the Sandaime and the Ichiraku duo waiting for them. Naruto ran up to his surrogate grandfather and gave him a big hug. I'll see you later, Chichi. I promise I'll get really strong so that I can take that hat from you when I get back. Hiruzen chuckled at the statement. I'm sure you will, Naruto-kun. Just maybe I'll let you take over should you get strong enough. Naruto released the old man and walked over to the ramen stand owners. I guess I'll see y'all soon enough. I'll miss your ramen so bad. See you, Oji-san, Aim-chan, he said as he gave each of them a hug. Before he released his hug with Aim, she gave him a quick peck on the cheek for good luck, which made his face go crimson. As he backed away, he heard approve. When he turned around, he found a taller man in the standard Konoha uniform with a mask covering his mouth and nose, and his ape covering his left eye. He had gravity-defying silver hair, and was lazily looking at a small orange book that he knew was one of his master's perverted books. Jiraiya was the one to speak up first. About time you get here, Kakashi. He turned to his apprentice. Naruto, this is Hada Kakashi. He will be going with us on our training trip and will be there to help train you. He is one of few people that surpasses myself or even sensei when it comes to ninjutsu. Kakashi looked up from his book with one of his patented eye smiles. Jiraiya-sama, you going to make me blush, he said with a sheepish tone. Jiraiya rolled his eyes and turned back to the Sandaime. Well, it's time to head out. See you in a few years, sensei. And with that they headed off. Small village on the edge of Hino-kuni. It had been just over 5 years since Naruto had left Konohagakure no Sato for his training trip. He had learned so much in these 5 years. He had also grown a great amount. At 14 years old, Naruto now stood at a good 6 feet tall. He had a lot of muscle on his frame, but you wouldn't think that was the case by looking at him. He had an extremely athletic frame, his arms and legs were toned to the max, packed with muscle. When he took his shirt off, you could see his chest, six-pack, and back muscles flex with every movement. This was due to the intense physical training that Kakashi and Jiraiya had put him through. His face had also changed a little bit. The frame of his face had become a bit more angular. His whisker marks had thinned out to where you might not notice them if you weren't up close, and he had let his hair grow out a bit. He had 2 bangs framing his face, ending just above the corners of his mouth. Think his father, but not quite as long or thick. He sat on the roof of the small hotel reminiscing about his time traveling the world and getting stronger with his 2 senses. He thought about all the things that had happened in the last 5 years. All the training, missions that he had learned, and all the good times he had spent with his sensei so far. Flashback. First year. Naruto was in the middle of a large clearing running laps around the edge of said clearing, while his 2 sensei sat on a couple of tree stumps discussing the training for the day. After about an hour, the 9-year-old finished his warm-ups and walked over to his sensei and master. He grabbed a small canteen and took a swig. He then took a deep breath to calm down. After his breathing evened out, he looked at his master. So Iro-senin, what are we going to do today? Are you going to teach me awesome enough to wipe out a village? The blonde said with stars in his eyes at the thought of what would make him Hokage. Hell no, Gaki. Jiraiya said, making Naruto face the fault. Listen, Naruto, you need to learn the basics of how to fight first, in order to start learning for you to use. That being said, today we will be starting on Taijutsu. Starting with the katas for the style we have chosen for you. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. They had already chosen a style for him to use. What style is that, Iro-senin? Damn it, Gaki, stop calling me that. If a woman hears that, she won't even so much as look at me. Said the perverted senin with a tick mark on his forehead. Well, if you weren't such a pervert, then you wouldn't have that problem, Iro-senin. Shot back the blonde. Whatever, brat, plus I'm a super pervert. Jiraiya grumbled at the end. Anyway, the style we have chosen for you is called the hummingbird style. I know you don't know much about this style, so let me explain. This style depends on great speed and a good amount of strength. You will advance even more once we start your ninjutsu training, and you learn how to do the shunshin. With this style you will focus on quick hard strikes to the enemy's joints and other weak points. This is a style that Kakashi and I are both very familiar with. Naruto looked over to the silver-haired man. You know this style too, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi looked up from his book with a lazy look. Of course I do, Naruto. My sensei is the one who created it with Jiraiya-sama in the first place. That did not shed any light on the subject for Naruto. Well, who was your sensei? My sensei was Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, replied the scarecrow. Naruto's eyes almost jumped out of his skull, and they went so wide. Your sense was the Yondaime. That is so cool. He waited a minute for the thoughts to process in his head. Wait a minute. That means I'm learning the style that Yondaime uses. Naruto almost passed out. He was so excited. Jiraiya took this moment to step in. Alright, Naruto, calm down. If you want to learn this style properly, then you have to learn the kata first. Now back up a few feet and do exactly what I do. And so began Naruto's Taijutsu training. Time skip. 9 months. Middle of Kaminari no Kuni. We see two people engaged in a spar, one being a tall man with gravity-defying silver hair, and the other with spiky blonde hair. The two are moving extremely fast, so fast that if you weren't a trained shinobi, you would have a hard time making out some of the taller man's strikes that the smaller one was trying to block or avoid. As he blocked a strike to the shoulder, Naruto sent a kick at the back of his sensei's knee, but Kakashi was able to move his leg just enough to dodge it. While his student was still off balance from missing the kick, Kakashi took this time to send a few jabs Naruto's way. Naruto was able to block a few, but having a sensei who is much faster and experienced, he still caught a couple jabs to the torso and a lighter one to the side of the head. Kakashi then appeared at his side and swiped his feet out from under him. But instead of falling on his ass like his momentum wanted him to, he performed a small back handspring and landed a few feet back. He wasn't there long before he launched off the ground to send a few strikes of his own toward his sensei. They spared for a few more minutes before the taller of the two motioned for the other to stop. Alright, Naruto, that should be enough for today. You are getting pretty good at using this style. You have all the basics down, you just need to work on your speed and overall timing. Don't worry though, that will come with experience. Kakashi finished it with a nice smile. Over the past few months, Naruto has slightly upped his workout regimen, worked on his katas, and sparred with Jiraiya and Kakashi. That's it. They did a few studies about Konoha and the past wars a few times a week, but they didn't unnecessarily draw out the lectures like the academy did. But overall, they were training, a little food, a little rest, training, and then more training. This is what it would be like for the remainder of the first year of the training trip. Time skip. Month 6 of year 2. We now find our little blonde hero doing something you would never think he would be doing, sitting still. Yes, you heard me, Uzumaki Naruto was sitting still in the middle of a clearing with his orange jacket and shirt off. But if you look closer, you would find that he had several leaves attached all across his body. He had a leaf on each side of his hand, 3 on each arm, 2 on his pectoral muscles, 2 on his abs, 1 on each whisker cheek, and 1 on his forehead. This is the advanced version of the leaf exercise performed in the academy. At the academy, you need to keep a leaf in place on your forehead. Naruto had a total of 17 leaves across his body. You think Naruto has enough control to be on par with seasoned Chunin, but at the rate he is at, he is just around high general in control. His Uzumaki reserves, and being a Jinchuriki, gave him just under cage level reserves at the age of 10. What do you get when you have cage level chakra reserves at the age of 10? You get the chakra control of a rock. Don't get the chakra control of a rock. Switch to DirecTV, and get, wait a minute, they don't have digital cable yet. Never mind. But he does have horrible chakra control. So to rectify this, they have been doing nothing but chakra control exercises, his taijutsu, and physical exercises for the last 6 months. He had begun tree walking last week, and was close to making around 2/3 up the kunai planted 10 feet up in the tree. Boy, Naruto, come here, yelled Jiraiya, who was sitting against a tree across the clearing. When Jiraiya yelled for him, it startled him, interrupting his concentration, and making all the leaves fall off of his frame. Damn it, Iro-senin, he muttered, as he got up to go over to his master. What do you want, Iro-senin? I was busy doing my leaf exercise, said a disgruntled Naruto. Well, fine, Gaki. You can go back to your little exercise if you don't want to start your ninjutsu training, said Jiraiya as he crossed his arms over his chest and turned his head away from his apprentice. No, wait, Iro-senin, I was just kidding, he said, trying to get the training he had been waiting for a year and a half. Well, I guess I can let it slide this one time. Alright, come over here and we will have a little talk about ninjutsu. Naruto did so, and sat Indian style in front of his master with Kakashi sitting up on one of the branches, reading his Icha book lazily. Jiraiya cleared his throat before he began this small lecture. So today we will officially start your ninjutsu training. We will be starting off with the 3 basic academies. Actually, I lied, we are going to be doing 2 of the academy, and an upgraded version of the last one. What we will be doing for the next month or so are the Henge, transformation, Kourimi no Jutsu substitution, and we would be doing the Bunshin no clone technique, but your chakra reserves are way too big to get a half-decent clone. So instead, we will be doing a technique called the Kage Bunshin no shadow clone technique. We will be using that for training later on too. So let's go over the clearing a bit more, and I will show you how to do it. Time skip month 7 of year 2. While Jiraiya was meeting with his contact in a town about 50 miles from Kumo, Naruto was with Kakashi practicing his ninjutsu. And there was one word you could describe Naruto with when regarding him to ninjutsu: prodigy. He mastered the Kage Bunshin in a good 4 hours. Right off the bat he could make up 50 clones. Realized that it was within 4 hours of learning the damn right now, after a month of practice, and, as a 10-year-old, he could make more than 800 clones. That's a shit ton considering most seasoned, with full reserves, can only make 40 before they pass out. It had taken him about 4 or 5 days before he had a workable henge. Workable being that he could move around and sprint without his transformation dispelling. The Kourimi had taken him a little longer, about 2 weeks, to master. But when you think about it, it is a watered-down Jikigin, time-space. Jiraiya had also gotten the young started on the first step of the Rasengan, spiraling shear. Though he was having some trouble with that one. After 2 weeks, Jiraiya decided it was okay for Kakashi to show him how to do the Shunshin. He figured that they could work on it while he was there, and Kakashi could show it how to incorporate it into his hummingbird-style taijutsu. So they did just that. Except he got the Shunshin in 3 days. Jiraiya was able to show him how to incorporate it into his taijutsu style, and point out his mistakes while he sparred with Kakashi-sensei. Time skip month 1 of year 3. The trio were now resting in a forest that was on their way to the general area around Tokigakure. Why were they so close to another village, you ask? They were going to start on Naruto's elemental ninjutsu training. After Naruto had perfected the Rasengan, in a month no less, they decided it was time to start working on getting him to learn elemental ninjutsu. They had tested for Naruto's natural affinity before deciding where to go. They had found that his main and strongest affinity was wind, with lesser affinities for fire and water. Naruto knew he would have wind, due to what Kacchan had told him, but he didn't know what other elements he would be able to work with. He also remembered that he would be able to control wind like it was second nature, if he worked hard at it. So with this in mind they headed on to Taki no Kuni, is their waterfall country. Someone tells me if there isn't, so they could go all the way with his wind manipulation. Because it was a 2-week trip to get there, they decided to take their time, and do some training. First thing they did was continue on with his Fuinjutsu lessons, which they had started about 3 or 4 months ago. He was a natural at it, but since he decided he would focus on ninjutsu first, they just gave him some basic lessons, and let him work through scrolls the rest of the time. He was now about midway through level 3 mastery, going with the max level being 10. They had also given him his first wind futon. Tatapa, wind release. Great breakthrough, was the first elemental in his arsenal. Kakashi had seen it fit to teach him the hand seals, and the basics, so he could be working on it, while he started on his futon mastery. He had done pretty well for just knowing the basics, and the hand seals. They had started on his mastery for wind, as well. But this time they used the Kage Bunshin to their advantage to get ahead in his training. Naruto by now could create around 1,000 clones with full reserves. Jiraiya would have him create 800 clones, and would tell them to each grab a leaf. Then all 801 Narutos would try to cut the wind with their chakra, only while they slowly made their way to Taki. Time skip month 6 of year 3. Naruto's elemental training could not have gone better. True to his Kacchan's word, he had godly control of wind. He made use of training with Kage Bunshins every day, doing his own version of wind manipulation training. What is this training, you ask? He fucking levitates by pushing Futon chakra out of his hands and feet. He can't fly yet, but he can hover about 6 inches off the ground for about 45 to 50 seconds each try. He mastered the leaf splitting exercise in a good week with the help of his Kage Bunshin training method. Even less time with the waterfall splitting exercise. He managed that in 2 days with shadow clones and his already progressing knowledge of Futon manipulation. He had mastered 5 Futon to this point. He had finished working out Futon. The top right before he finished the waterfall splitting exercise. He then got a summon to go to visit Sarutobi-sensei for some since he and Kakashi only knew that one. Sarutobi sent them 5 scrolls. They were for the K's no Yeba, Wind Sword Technique, Futon. Rinkuden, Wind Release. Drilling Air Bullet, Futon. Rapusho, Wind Release. Gale Palm, Futon. Atsugai, Wind Release. Pressure Damage, and Futon. Shinkajuku, Wind Release. Vacuum Sphere. He had mastered all but Futon, Atsugai, and Futon. Shinkajuku. There was just something about manipulating the air pressure that was harder than using the cutting or repelling force of wind. Creating a vacuum kinda comes with the air pressure, so he would be doing that last. Time skip month 1 of year 4. Naruto was officially a master of Futon. He had mastered all that he had been given about a month ago. For the past month he had been working on manipulating the air pressure to his will, and let's just say it works like a charm. In spars, he could control the air pressure to such a degree that he could make the air around his opponent so great that it would cause them to fall to their knees. He could only hold it for a few seconds, and he could only execute this move twice a day, but it was one hell of a breakthrough. He would train to extend the usage of this move religiously throughout his training trip. Now he was starting training on his minor elements. Once he also mastered these, he would work on creating sub-elements by combining them with his wind element, like his Kachan said he would be able to do. Flashback end. Thinking back on his training made him smile. He hadn't been able to create sub-elements yet, but he had mastered Kaiten, Suiten, and was decent at using Raiden knowing 2 Raiden. He also looked back on his missions up to this point. The first 20 or so had been stupid little chores that they had picked up at the town halls, whenever they stayed in a small village on the outskirts of any given country. Those he didn't really consider missions, just little tasks to get him used to dealing with clients. No, the real mission started right after he had finished his basics. He still remembers the first C-rank type mission he went on. He frowned, as he thought about the one thing that he hated most about his career to this point, something that his first mission had brought. His first kill. Flashback month 10 of year 2. Naruto was bouncing on the balls of his feet. He was finally going to do a real shinobi mission. Jiraiya had ended training a little earlier that day, since Jiji had contacted him around lunchtime via summons giving them their first mission. There was a small bandit camp terrorizing travelers, and a small town just inside the border with Kaminari no Kuni. They were to take that little camp out. Jiraiya had told Naruto to stay off his feet and to get plenty of rest for the mission the next day. Time skip the next morning. As Jiraiya and Kakashi packed up their small camp and sealed all the unneeded items and scrolls, they made sure to unseal plenty of kunai and shuriken for their young blonde charge. After they had finished tearing down camp, they quietly made their way toward the bandit camp. After 10 minutes of tree jumping, they were right outside of the camp and could view all of the bandits. Most were just waking up, as it was about 8 in the morning by this time. Jiraiya pulled Naruto aside and kneeled down in front of the 10-year-old. He put his hands on the shoulders of his godson, who was bouncing up and down with excitement, and looked him straight in the eyes. Naruto, I know it is exciting that you are beginning your career as a shinobi for real today, but you need to be calm and collected at all times during the mission. I'm not going to lie. We are going to kill people today. We don't like it, but these evil men are doing unspeakable things to many people in the nearby village, and to those traveling these roads. Do not be afraid, and do not hesitate. Kakashi and I will be there to protect you should anything go wrong. Kakashi took a turn at talking to the son of his sensei, after Jiraiya stood up to analyze the bandit camp. Don't worry Naruto, I will protect you with my life. You remember our little motto. Naruto smiled a little, and replied, those who abandon orders are trash, but those who abandon comrades are worse than trash. Kakashi's eyes smiled. Damn straight, as he held out his fist for a bro fist. Naruto pondered the masked man, and turned to Jiraiya for orders. Jiraiya turned back to them, and cleared his throat. Alright, there seems to be about 40 or so bandits. Judging by the reserves of their chakra, none of them are ninja, and just simple bandits. Don't underestimate them, but they shouldn't be too hard to deal with. Kakashi and I will take out the bulk of them with Naruto just taking out as many as he can handle. Kakashi, I want you to go around to the northern side of the camp, and start from there. Naruto and I will start on this side so I can keep an eye on him. Launch a Kaiten at a few that are bunched up to catch them off guard, and to signal when Naruto and I should start. Kakashi nodded, and headed over to the other side of the camp. Jiraiya and Naruto sat there, and waited for about 5 minutes until they saw a bright light ahead, and heard a few screams. Time to roll, Gaki. Remember, don't hesitate. Let's go, said Sanin, as he took off with Naruto right behind him. Jiraiya and Kakashi didn't have a tough time, but Naruto struggled with one of the stronger bandits he was engaging. He had taken a couple of bandits by surprise by hitting them with a few kunai, immobilizing them, but not hitting any vital spots. At the moment he was engaged with a bandit that was a bit faster than him. He also had a sword, so Naruto was at a disadvantage in this aspect also. Naruto, with a kunai in each hand, stabbed at the bandit with his right hand. The bandit blocked it with his sword, and parried it to make Naruto lose balance a little bit. While he was off balance, the bandit swiped down with his sword. To Naruto, it looked like it was in slow motion. So without hesitating, he raised his left hand up to block the sword with the kunai, and slashed across the bandit's neck with the other hand. The sweep was right on target, slicing the bandit's neck right at the jugular. Naruto's eyes widened at what he had just done. He could hear the bandits gurgling, and watched, as life left his eyes. Naruto fell to his knees, with tears running freely, unable to move. He could see another bandit with one of the kunai he had thrown running toward him, with the intention to drive it through his skull, but he couldn't move. He waited to get his just desserts for killing the other man a few seconds ago, as the other bandit drew closer. The new assaulter shoved his kunai forward to impale the boy. But at the last second, Kakashi appeared beside him, shoving a kunai of his own into the bandit to protect the blonde. Kakashi pushed the now dead bandit to the side, and kneeled down in front of the shaking 10-year-old. "Come on, Naruto. Snap out of it, buddy. You're safe now. All the bandits are gone, and our mission is over. I killed that guy. I really am a demon." The boy choked out while sobbing. "Naruto, if you are a demon, then I am Satan. I killed almost 20 men back there. But you know why we did it?" Naruto shook his head. "It's because those were evil men. Naruto had stolen and killed countless people on the road and in the village for money. We were getting rid of these people so others could be safe. I know you're not alright with killing, and trust me, that's a good thing. It needs to be done when people are too gone to save, just like these bandits were." Jiraiya watched this from a couple steps back, and decided to step in. "Why don't we find a nice hotel room, and just let you rest for the remainder of the day?" Flashback end. He remembered the care he had received from his master, and sensei had helped, but nothing helped more than the soothing he had received from his Kachan that night. His Kachan always knew just what to say, even when he met Kyuubi, and when he learned about his parents. That's right. He had already known about his lineage, and had met Kyuubi, and boy was she angry. Flashback month 8 of year 4. Naruto opened his eyes in his mindscape, expecting to see the white walls he would meet before he spent the night with his Kachan. But that was not what he was looking at right now. Not one bit. He found himself in the middle of a dimly lit place that resembled a sewer. The walls were giant brass pipes, and he was ankle deep in water. This was water, right? He leaned down to sniff the water. Fucking disgusting. That is not water, he thought. He used his water walking ability, and walked further into the sewer to explore a little bit. Eventually he came to face a massive cage that was taller than the main gates of Konoha. There was a small piece of paper where the two gates met that had the kanji for seal on it. He peered inside only to see two great red, slitted eyes looking at him menacingly. "Come closer," deep voice slowly called out. Naruto, being a bit scared and doubtful, didn't do what the voice said, preferring to remain there silently. "Come closer so I can rip you to shared ninja," the voice shouted, banging against it with its head. No thanks," the boy said tentatively while backing up a bit. As he backed up, a little light was casted into the cage to the point where he could see what was inside calling to him. He could make out the massive orange fox that had 9 tails swishing violently behind it. "So my precious little jailer has finally found the time to visit little old me. I feel so honored," Kyuubi said, voice drooping with sarcasm. "So you are the Kyuubi no Yuko," said Naruto to himself, but Kyuubi heard him. "No, I am not. I'm the Easter Bunny. Of course I'm the Kyuubi, you insolent ninja. Now rip off the seal, and release me, you worthless sack of flesh." Naruto was a bit taken back by this. "Easy man, I can't release you. It would kill me. Like I care, brat. It's not like your puny life is worth anything to me anyway. Now tear off the seal, and I will be on my way." Naruto was starting to get angry at the way he was being insulted now. "What is your problem, fuzzball? I never did anything to you. You're the reason I am trapped in this fucking cage, ninja. That is why I hate you. You're the reason I am here wasting away in this god-forsaken sewer. Well, I can blame you for my problems too. You're the reason I was hated, ignored, and mistreated in my village. That's just like you ninjas. Blaming all your troubles on something else just because your lives weren't easy. Yeah, well, there's the old pot calling the kettle black. You literally just blamed me for keeping you imprisoned here, when I was not even a day old when Yondaime-sama sealed you into me. Doesn't that sound just like the ninjas that you hate so much?" asked Naruto. Kyuubi's tail thrashed behind it violently, as it started releasing an unmatchable amount of bloodlust and killer intent. "I'm gonna call it Kai for the rest of the story. How dare you compare me with you worthless ninjas? I ought to." The Kyuubi was cut off, as a new surge of power, that oddly didn't affect Naruto, crushed its own. "That will be enough, Naomi-chan. There's no need to scare my Sachi so badly, no matter the impression you wanted to make." Naruto turned around to see his Kachan standing there looking at the Kachan. Naruto yelled, as he ran to give his mother a hug. "Hello, my Nair-chan," said the goddess, as she gave a hug and a kiss to the forehead of her not so little anymore son. He was about 4 inches taller than she was now, but she managed. She wasn't a goddess for nothing. She turned back to the Kyuubi before she spoke again. "Naomi-chan, please change into your regular form so we can have a nice conversation, please." The Kyuubi, now known as Naomi, weird name for a guy, wink wink, sighed. "Hi Kami-sama." Suddenly there was a great flash of red that blinded Naruto for a few moments. He rubbed his eyes, and the sight he was greeted with was one he would treasure for a while. There, instead of a giant orange fox, was a gorgeous woman. She stood at around 5'8" in a white kimono with black flames at the bottom and a kanji for 9 on the back. She had slitted red eyes and crimson hair that went down to her shapely behind. Her behind was matched by her bust, which sat at a high teacup. Wait a minute. Men don't have breasts. You're a woman? Shouted a confused blonde. Of course I'm Baka. Men don't tend to have tits like this, do they? Naomi asked with a scowl. Calm down, Naomi-chan. You wouldn't talk to the legacy of your father like that, would you? Kami said with a smirk. No, but he isn't going to make him my father's legacy, aren't you? Asked Naomi, who knew the answer to the question. But of course. Who better than my own son to bring peace to the world? Naruto was completely out of the loop. Alright, Ka-chan, what the hell is going on? Whose legacy am I, and who was her father? Kami looked over to Naomi and nodded at her, saying to explain. Naomi huffed, I can't believe that this brat is going to succeed my father. She turned to Naruto and explained. My father was known as the Rakuto Sennin, sage of the 6 paths, to you ninjas. I'm guessing Kami-sama will be blessing you with his eyes, which is probably the strongest force in the universe. Kami nodded at this. That's right, Naruto-kun. I will be blessing you with the best ocular prowess the world has ever seen. You will later in your life unlock the known as the Rinnegan. You will learn about this from Naomi-chan when you unlock it, as she knows all about it and its powers. Why don't I just get it now, Ka-chan? Asked Naruto. Is my little Naru-chan getting lazy? You will need to keep working hard if you want to receive this gift, as you have for the rest of my gifts, Naru-chan. You and Naomi-chan will need to learn how to get along and work together if you truly want to bring peace. Now this is not the only reason I am here tonight. I am here to tell Naru-chan that something is going to happen tomorrow night. What will be going on, Ka-chan? You will learn who your biological parents are. What? I thought none of them knew who my birth parents were, he said angrily. He was calmed down from his angry thoughts by a hug from his mother. Now, Naru-chan. This is why I am here. You do not need to be angry at them for keeping this from you. They did it to protect you. Both of your parents had many enemies. They only were trying to protect you. I would have done the same thing if I were put in the same position. Naruto was silent for a moment, then he huffed, fine, but I don't have to like it. I know, just be patient with them tomorrow, and be understanding of the position they were put in. I know you will make me proud with your decision. Now it is time for you to wake up, Sachi. I want you to come in here on the nights that I do not come to visit you. To come here, just think about coming here when you start to fall asleep, and you will appear. You and Naomi-chan need to get to know each other before you start to work together. I will see you soon, my little Naru-chan, she said. She kissed him on the forehead before he went back into the world of the living. Flashback end. Yeah, he wasn't too happy when he found out who his parents were. He took it well, but still. He was a kid of Uzumaki Kushina and the guy who sealed Naomi into his gut. And he was treated like an outcast, despite being the child of 2 of the most popular people in the history of the village. Boy, Baka, you act like it is such a bad thing that you're stuck with me for a while, said the fox girl in his head. Aw, come on Naomi-chan, don't be like that. You know I love you, he said with an embarrassed tone at being caught with his thoughts. Ibaka, I told you not to call me that, the queen said with a blush, not that Naruto could see it. Composing herself, she spoke up again. It's getting pretty late, Naruto. You should probably get some rest. As Naomi-chan missed me already. Don't worry, I'll be right in to cuddle with you, baby, he thought with a smirk. It was funny to hear someone so powerful stutter. Don't say such things, Narubaka. Not like I care anyway. Do whatever you want, she said, blushing up a storm and cutting the link. He laughed as he felt the link being cut. He and Naomi had grown really close over the last few months. Honestly, he had grown a small crush on her. But hey, if you were in such close proximity with a babe like that, wouldn't you get one too? Before he headed inside to sleep and talked to Naomi, he thought about what the rest of the training trip would be like. Jiraiya had said it would go however he wanted it to go. If he wanted to try working on Naomi's chakra, creating, learning how to use his sword, or even advanced lessons. He'd probably do all of it, with his army of Cage Bunchin of course. But well, time to rest, and tease Naomi-chan, he thought before heading inside. The next year or so is going to be fun. Main gate of Konoha, a year and a half later. It was a hot day in Konohagakure. Hainokuni was known for its high temperatures year-round, but today was more than your normal day. It was just over 100 degrees, and humid like nothing else. I feel bad for the poor team that has to catch Tora today. Anyway, the 2 people that were suckered into gate duty today were Kamizuki Izumo and Hagin Katetsu. The eternal Chuninins were guarding the gate, what else is new? But there they were, sitting back playing cards for like the 30th time today. It's hotter than Satan's ballsack out here, and we are here stuck guarding the fucking gate. Got any 4s? Asked Izumo. Damn it, I have 2 of them, Katetsu said, as he tossed a pair over to his partner. And quit complaining. This isn't so bad. Yeah, it's hot, but we are in the shade doing nothing all day. Got any sevens? Oh fish. But that's the point. We haven't done anything in weeks. Ever since you decided to sign us up for the gate guarding shifts, we haven't done shit. No border patrols, no escorts, no bandit or missing nin camps, nothing. It's so boring just sitting here doing nothing. Tetsu frowned as he drew his card. This was not his game. Oh, shut up will ya. This beats having to do all those missions or working for a living. Izumo sets his cards down as he sees 4 figures with headed cloaks walking at a leisurely pace toward the gates. Hold up, there is someone coming. As they got closer, they shed their cloaks, and you could make out that 3 out of the 4 Mystery 9 were men, and 1 was a woman by their heights and body shapes. The first was a tall man that stood about 6'4". He was wearing a sleeveless red cloak over an olive green shirt and pants with traditional Jeddah sandals, had white hair that went down his back in a spiky ponytail, and a hit I-8 with a kanji for oil. This they recognized was the Gama-sen in Jiraiya. The next was a man that stood about 6'2". He donned the normal outfit with the flak jacket, had grey gravity-defying hair, and had a mask, and his 8 covering the majority of his face. They knew who this was, as he was the most notable in the village. This man was Hada Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. The last of the males was one that looked much younger than anyone in the rest of the group. He looked to be about 15 or 16. He was a good 6 feet tall, had blonde hair with red tips, deep blue eyes, and faint whisker marks on his cheeks, 3 on each to be exact. Of course, if he was wearing a crap ton of orange, they would have recognized him as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto. But he wasn't. He was wearing black Anbu-style pants, a short-sleeved mesh shirt with a black sleeveless shirt, with a dark orange tiger camo pattern he couldn't give it all up to people, and black shinobi sandal with the calves wrapped down to his ankles. He also had a katana strapped to his hip. The last was the female. She was fairly tall for a woman, had brown, pupilless eyes, green hair that was tied into a bun at the top of her head, with thick blonde locks framing her face. She wore a sleeveless and backless top, purple pants, and a white wrap around her stomach. She was very attractive with her rather large feminine assets, and a round behind. This was Shakuta no Pakura, formerly of Sunagakur. As the 4 walked toward the massive gates of Konohagakure no Sato, Jiraiya stepped up front and went up to the small check-in kiosk in front of the gates. The 2 eternal Chunin stood at attention when they saw one of the Sannin come up to the gate. Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya held up a hand for the 2 to calm down. Easy you 2, Sarutobi-sensei already knows that we are coming today, so we are just going to go on up to his office. And before they were able to answer, all 4 shinobi had used the shunshin to get to the Hokage tower. The eternal Chunin just looked at each other and shrugged their shoulders. So got any 9s? Oh fish. Hokage tower. Sarutobi Hiruzen was almost done with the large stack of paperwork that his secretary had brought in earlier in the morning. Once he finished he would be free from the accursed 3 shavings of death. Until after lunch when she brought in another stack. Sigh, some things never change. Knock knock, you may enter, what Sandame Hokage said without looking up, as he signed the last document in the large stack of paperwork. Because he didn't look up when the 4 came in, he was not expecting the Jinchuriki and his crew. When he looked up he remembered that they were supposed to be back today. He cleared his throat before he began speaking. On Naruto-kun, Jiraiya-kun, Kakashi-kun, I suspect the training trip has accomplished its goal. Before the leaders of the group could say anything, our favorite blonde was a little quicker. You bet, Gigi. You better be ready to hand over that hat, because I've gotten so good that the hat will naturally gravitate to my head instead of your wrinkly one. I haven't been Hokage at such an age for nothing, Naruto-kun. I was called the Shinobi no Kami for a reason, I will have you know. Jiraiya took his turn. Why don't you test him, and find out, sensei? He could easily beat the majority of joining already. What else would you expect with my teaching though? He said with a smug little smirk at the end. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at this. What do you think of that statement, Kakashi-kun? Kakashi, he had by now gotten out his pocket-size orange book, much to Pakura's eye rolled up, and I smiled. It's not very much of an exaggeration, Hokage-sama. He could fight on par with most in Taijutsu, just as good if not better than Jiraiya-sama at, and is on par with myself in the ninjutsu category. He could easily take out most of us. Naruto, he had puffed his chest out at this proclamation, turned to his surrogate grandfather, and smirked. Ready to pass me the hat yet, old man? Aitai, ouch in Japanese. He was then firmly smacked over the back of the head by Pakura. He looked at her with a small pout. What the hell, me-chan? Pakura crossed her arms over her abundant chest, and frowned. You should speak with respect to Hokage-sama, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen had by this time noticed the former Suna Pakura-san. May I ask what you are doing here in my village? And without your Suna Hidayate. Sandai masked, ready to call Anbu if she had a problem. Oi, Gigi, she's with us. She wants to become a Kunoichi for Konoha. Naruto exclaimed. Sandium was extremely shocked at this. Oh? If she truly wants to join Konoha, then why would she have faked her death? You do realize she was proclaimed to be murdered by Iwa 6 months ago, right? If she is indeed who she says she is, then why is she here, and not in Sunu where she belongs? Usually, I would just send her back to Suna, as a sign of goodwill, given we have some form of alliance with them. At this Pakura started to sweat. If she was sent back to Suna, she would definitely be killed so she couldn't spill the truth about her death. Gigi, you can't do that. They would kill her, Naruto said, as he stepped forward and put his arm out in front of her in a protective manner. And why would that be, Naruto-kun? That makes it seem like she has done some criminal act on an internal scale in Suna, or she was named a missing nin in secret and sent to be assassinated. The old Kage sighed and rubbed his forehead. If this is the case, I will have to send her back, or we could lose the alliance, or they could declare war on us. That's not how it went down, Gigi, shouted Naruto. Oh? Then you would care to explain. Flashback 6 months before the end of the training trip. Takura was ready to die. She lay there in the valley at the edge of Mizuno-kuni, bleeding out from several wounds in her back and on the front of her torso. She had been betrayed by the Kiri shinobi she was sent to negotiate with and her home village. She was struck down when she was not looking. She knew that no one was coming for her either. Apparently there was some agreement between the villages that her life was to be given for the prevention of war. As she lay there staring into the last sunset she was likely to see, she shifted through her memories and thought back to all she had accomplished in her life. It has been tough. She had struggled and fought tooth and nail to master her bloodline, and for the rest of her skills, for the respect she had earned, and for everything else she had ever had. And here she was bleeding out in the middle of a valley where no one would ever find her after being betrayed by the village she had risked her life for. That's what she thought anyway, as she succumbed to unconsciousness due to blood loss. She didn't notice the spiky head of blonde hair exploring the valley for some kind of animal to eat. Naruto didn't necessarily find anything for dinner, but he went back to the small camp where Jiraiya and Kakashi were relaxing by a fire they had lit for the night to get her some first aid at the very least. The sensei, and master of the unpredictable blonde, knew not to expect anything with the student that just seemed to attract every curveball life could throw at him, but yet they were not ready for him to bring in a famous kunoichi that was bleeding out slowly, and ask for them to help him administer first aid. They made sure that they properly bandaged her. Jiraiya wasn't so perverted when someone's life was on the line, and forced blood pills down her throat so she wouldn't die of blood loss. For 2 days, they changed bandages, forced crushed up food pills down her throat so she had at least some nourishment, and waited for her to wake up. She freaked out a bit when she woke up, but when they explained where she was, she managed to calm down a bit. She had explained to the trio about what had gone down that night, and how she was betrayed by her village. Naruto, being the kind-hearted person he was, immediately offered for her to stay with them and their group. Jiraiya, after some thinking, saw nothing wrong with it and offered her the same thing. He even went a step further and said if she proved to be trustworthy, then he could vouch for her and get her into the shinobi program in Konoha. She then agreed to stay with them and considered the offer to become a shinobi. Throughout the journey, she had added some very helpful insight into Naruto's training, and even helped him develop his Shakutin affinity once he had deemed her trustworthy enough to tell her his story, about his adoptive mother, and also about the possibilities with his powerful wind affinity. As they trained together, Naruto and Pakura warmed up to each other nicely. Not so much in a romantic way, but in more of a sibling-like relationship. She was able to give him some structure, and help him mature a little bit by playing that older sister role. Flashback end. So, Gigi, are you going to let her join? All 3 of us will vouch for her. She can be trusted, and the fact that she already knows about Kacchan and my abilities should prove that, Naruto said fervently, trying to get his sister figure into the village for good. Sarutobi folded his hands in front of his mouth in thought. He then sighed before making his decision. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I cannot allow her to stay and become a shinobi. It would tense our relationship to the only major ally we have. Naruto was shocked at the lack of guts by his Gigi. But that being said, he still had one last card in his back pocket. Fine, Gigi, you don't have to let her stay or become a shinobi. I'm glad you see some rays. Gigi, you didn't let me finish, Naruto said with a serious expression. You don't have to let her stay. But if she goes, then I will refuse to become a shinobi for this village, and will go with her. She is like the sister I never had, and refuses to just let her go. If you refuse her, then you lose possibly the greatest military asset that the village will ever have. Everyone in the room was floored at this declaration. Sarutobi, because he did not think for 1 second that his surrogate grandson would even think about not becoming a Konoha shinobi, especially after hearing about his birth parents and their sacrifices. Jiraiya and Kakashi were speechless because they knew he was serious about this. Takura, because she was amazed at the lengths that he was going through to keep her with him. She had been having some abandonment issues after the whole village betrayal thing, so the statements made by her little brother made her elated. Naruto was the one to break the silence with a little murmur to the side that was just loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe we could go to Kumo. I heard that they were really big on Jinkai. How does that sound to you, Ni-chan? The Sandaime paled at this. Naruto-kun, be reasonable about this. The council would never allow you to leave and go somewhere else, anyway. Naruto looked back at the Hokage. Gigi, I can do whatever the hell I want. I am not yet a shinobi of this village, and, as such cannot be placed in the bingo book, as a missing nin. And I am stronger than most assassins you could send after me, especially with Kakura Ni-chan with me. I came prepared for all of this, Gigi. You can either grow a set, and let Ni-chan in, or you can watch both of us go to Kumo, where they will welcome us with open arms. He said, crossing his arms over his chest, and turning his head away. Sarutobi was in a bind. He could let possibly the person with the most potential in history walk out the door, or he could walk into an extremely difficult foreign policy situation. He sat there determining the pros and cons of both. He finally came to a decision. Naruto-kun, if both Jiraiya and Kakashi can vouch for her, then I will allow her to stay with you. Naruto let out a whoop, picked up his sister, and spun her around in excitement. Have you heard of Ni-chan? You get to stay. Kakura, who didn't care to be dizzy, just patted him on the head. Yes, and well that is great, you need to put me down. Naruto did so, and rubbed the back of his head with a sheepish smile. Sorry, I just got a little too excited, as he said that he slapped his hands over his mouth, and blushed. After everyone got in a short chuckle at the blonde's expense, Sarutobi spoke up. Naruto-kun, well I can get her to stay, I cannot protect her from the council, and their schemes. Naruto smirked at that. I said that I came prepared, didn't I, Gigi? I, Uzumaki Naruto, officially placed Kakura under the protection of the Uzumaki clan, and, as of now wish to officially adopt her into the clan, as the last of my clan here in Konoha, it makes me clan head by default. So I actually can do this. Jiraiya chuckled, and laid a hand on his apprentice's shoulder. Kagaki is right, sensei. He studied clan laws for about a week straight when I told him about this little loophole. Sarutobi went digging through a cabinet on the side of his desk. He dug out a small stack of papers, and pushed them towards the direction of Naruto and Kakura at the end of his desk. These are official papers for clan adoptions. If you can get these filled out before the council meeting in 2 days' time, then she will officially be Uzumaki Kakura. Sarutobi then continued speaking, by the way, the council meeting is about team assignments for this year's Genin crop, the same age group as Naruto-kun. I expect you to graduate, and become a Genin like the rest of the young men and women your age. Naruto looked at his grandfather figure with a deadpan expression. Ano, Gigi. Yes, Naruto-kun. You're fucking insane. The blonde replied. Gigi, I am stronger than most of the shinobi in the village combined. Kakashi-sensei says that I can hang with him for a good amount of time when he is going all out with his Sharingan. That's without me using the 3 of Naomi-chan's tails I have available. Hiruzen turned to Kakashi. Is this true, Kakashi? You said he could take out the majority of the already, but does this include you? Kakashi put his book up, and gave a nice smile toward the Hokage. I wouldn't say he could take me out, but he can definitely give me a run for my money. Perhaps he should watch us spar. The Sandame looked over at Naruto, and sighed. I guess that would be the best thing. He stood up, and walked over to the other people in the room. Grab hold of me, and we shall go to my private training grounds. Everyone placed a hand on the elderly Hokage, and the old man brought out a small sheet of paper with a very complex sealing array. He channeled chakra into his other hand, and swept it across the seal. Not a second later, and they all vanished with a cloud of smoke, and a proof. Hokage's private training ground. As the group appeared in the training ground, they all looked around. It was a darker room that was easily the size of a few buildings. It had a decent-sized pond in one of the corners, and a few trees throughout the training ground, and one corner of it was reminiscent of a small forest. Naruto was the first to speak out. Oi, Gigi. This place is awesome. Where are we? Hiruzen chuckled at the teen's excitable nature. This Naruto-kun is training ground 0. We are currently 300 feet underground beneath the Hokage monument. Hashirama-sensei made this training ground with his Doton and Mokuton for all of the future Hokage to train in. It was then laced with preservation seals by your father, being the seal master he was, to keep it in pristine conditions. You all should feel special. Even though Jiraiya-kun has been here once before, you 4 are some of the only people in Konoha history who have been here without the rank of Hokage. Sugoi, Naruto muttered. Hiruzen then clapped his hands together. Now to get on to business, why don't we hold a spar or 2 to gauge your abilities, Naruto-kun? I want you to spar with Kakashi-kun. You can use any moves you want. But please, no killing or maiming. The 2 mentioned shinobi nodded, and jumped to the center of the training field. They stood facing each other about 20 feet away from the other. Naruto got into a ready stance. Kakashi pulled up his headband, revealing his Sharingan, and got into his own stance. Jiraiya jumped in between them with a hand raised up. Hajime! Jiraiya shouted, as he threw his hand down, and jumped back toward the other 2 people in the large room. That very second, the 2 shinobi vanished in a blur, moving toward each other. They met punch for punch, kick for kick, and jab for jab. Their speed was about equal, but Kakashi was the one to get most of the hits due to his experience. Granted, Naruto got in a few solid hits to Kakashi's weak points, but no big hits. More seconds went on with the Taijutsu clash before Naruto got tired of it and jumped back. In midair he started weaving seals. He landed about 30 feet away from the pond and finished his seals with a dog seal. Futon. Shinku Renpa, wind release. Vacuum serial waves, 4 large waves of distorted wind shot out at Kakashi. Kakashi immediately weaved through seals, ended on the snake seal, and slammed his hands to the ground. Doten. Dorakeki, Earth Release. Earth-style wall, a large stone with the head of a dog popped out in front of him, and blocked the waves of wind. When the wall sunk back into the ground, Kakashi was no longer behind it. Naruto looked around for a moment, and held his right hand up in a half-ram seal to scan the area with his sensor ability that he had gained in the last month of his trip. After 2 seconds, his eyes snapped open, and he jumped back to avoid 2 gloved hands wrapping around his ankles, attempting to pull him under. He landed a few yards away from his previous spot, as Kakashi shot up from the ground that his hands were sticking out of. As soon as Kakashi was up, he fired 3 kunai at the blonde. The blonde took out a kunai of his own to block them, but when he looked up he noticed that Kakashi was holding his hands in the bird seal. No, water release. Water dragon bullet technique. Naruto was quick to react, as he jumped back to avoid the massive water dragon. The dragon didn't dissipate, but bounced off the ground, reared back, and once more shot off toward the blonde. This time, Naruto had time to counter. He landed, and held his right hand to the side of his body. A bright orange ball of fire that was wrapped in a red ore-like shroud appeared in it. He reared back, and launched it at the incoming water dragon. Shakutin. Kajusatsu, Scorch Release. Extremely steaming murder. The two met, and exploded in a mist of steam that enveloped the majority of the massive training ground. Back with the Hokage, and Kakure. The older of the two was shocked at the use by the blonde. He looked over to the former Sunanin, and quickly cleared his throat. So is this what Kami-sama meant by complete mastery over wind? The formation of sub-elements? Kakure nodded. Hi. After he told me of his Kachan and her gifts, he told me about the possibility of sub-elements. It was true, as you saw. He took to learning them quickly once I helped him complete the mastery of Kaden. They turned, and looked back at the mist. Interesting. You said he completed the mastery for Kaden, as well. She gave another quick nod. Hi, Hokage-sama. He has mastered it, but doesn't have many just for it. He prefers to use the Shakutin to Kaden with both being offensive elements. What other elements has he mastered? Asked the Hokage. He has also completed the mastery for Futon, as you already knew about, and also for Sutin. Those were his affinities, so that is all he has worked on. He says he will go about learning some Doten and Raiden, especially Raiden, later on in his career. He just wants to focus on what he has at the moment. Hiruzen nodded, as he looked more closely into the steamy mist. With the spar, Kakashi tried to look for Naruto's chakra signature with his Sharingan, but the mist was laced with chakra residue, due to the clash of the two powerful at the last second. However, he noticed a black silhouette moving toward him. Naruto shot out of the mist with his sword drawn, and reared back to strike. Kakashi quickly produced 2 kunai, and pumped them full of chakra to elongate and strengthen them, thus cancelling out the advantage of Naruto having a katana. As Naruto brought his sword forward to slice Kakashi in half, Kakashi put his chakra-infused kunai in an X to block. The block was successful, and Kakashi pushed back, sending his student off balance a bit. Kakashi took this time to make a few swipes and jabs with his dual kunai, but Naruto still had enough body control to parry each jab and slice. Naruto jumped back a bit to regain his balance. He didn't stay for long, as he immediately took off toward his sensei. This time, however, he coated his katana in a thin layer of Futon chakra to once more have the advantage. He swung the chakra-coated katana, and took a slash to Kakashi's side. Kakashi could see it in advance due to his Sharingan, and pulled both the kunai facing upward to block. The block was successful, but not for long. After about a second, the wind-coated katana started to gradually cut through, as Naruto pumped more chakra into his blade. Before Kakashi was cut in half, he pushed away, and jumped back a bit. He started going through hand seals, but was stopped when Jiraiya, who was watching while sitting on a nearby tree branch, intervened before he went over to where his sensei was. That'll do, boys. They heard Dagama-Sennin yell from his spot on the tree branch. The two that were sparring stopped, and walked over to each other, where they shook hands, as a sign of respect to each other. Seems I still can't beat you, Miss Sensei. Don't worry though, it won't be long before I can kick your ass, and get revenge for the first 2 years of the trip to Kaka-sensei. Naruto said with a smirk, as he released his sensei's hand, and started walking over to the others. You would have beaten him if you used my chakra, Naruto-kun. He heard Naomi say in his mind. Naruto rolled his eyes. Don't be like that, Naomi-chan. I didn't want to hurt Kakashi-sensei. You know how I get when I get more than the initial cloak. He said, referencing the insane bloodlust he feels when using anything from a single tail-up. If you would actually train with my chakra, then you wouldn't have this problem. You picked Kenjutsu over training my chakra. Sniff, I must not be important to you. Baka trying to make me feel bad. I'll hang out in the sea for longer than normal tonight just for you, Naomi-chan. He teased in a childish manner. Well, I appreciate and accept the offer. I am not 4 years old. You sure? You're going to get it tonight. We'll see, Naomi-chan, he thought. He was brought back into reality by his sensei speaking. Ma, don't worry too much about Naruto. You'll keep getting better with experience. and I will not allow that to happen," responded Kakashi as they made it over to the Hokage's position. When they got there, Naruto was the first one to speak. "So, Chichi, are you ready to give me the hat yet? Or do you want some too?" Hiruzen simply shook his head with an amused visage on his wrinkled face. "I think it's a bit too early for that, Naruto-kun. You are definitely level. I would place you in the top 20 skill-wise of all our." Naruto pumped his fist in the air. "Yada. I'm joining now. Next step will be to steal that sweet office and hat from you, Chichi." "Now Naruto-kun, who said anything about you becoming the old Kage?" asked. "Eh?" The blonde huffed out in confusion. "Didn't you just say it?" His question was rewarded by a scoff from his older sister. "No, Baka, he said that you were level. He can't simply make you right away. You have to be able to lead a team, something you haven't ever done in any of the missions we've taken." Naruto sighed, as a rain cloud appeared over his crouched form. "Moo, so mean, Ni-chan." Kakura sighed at his antics before yanking him to a standing position by the back of his sleeveless shirt. "No pouting. Listen to what the Hokage has to say." Hiruzen chuckled at the scene in front of him. "Thank you, Kakura-chan. Why don't we all go back to my office now?" All the others nodded and grabbed hold of the sandame. The old man repeated the process he did to appear in the secluded training ground, and with the proof they were back on the top floor of the Hokage Tower. When they appeared, the 4 shinobi that were on the trip sat down on either a chair or a couch in front of the Hokage's desk, and Hiruzen sat down behind his desk. He then folded his hands on top of his desk and cleared his throat. "Now, let's discuss what your roles in this village will be. Jiraiya-kun and Kakashi-kun, you should know your roles, as they will stay the same." They nodded at the statement, expecting such. "Although, Kakashi-kun, you will take a genin team in a week. We will discuss this sometime tomorrow. Just come by at your leisure since I don't have any appointments, as far as I know." "Hi, Hokage-sama," the masked man replied. "Now on to Pakura-chan," he said, looking at the only woman in the room. "I know the basics of your skill set and the majority of your records. I will be making you, but you will have to have a 2-month probationary period. You will also be overseen in all missions that are outside of the village by Kakashi-kun. Nothing personal, but this is standard protocol for the most part. I would normally have someone from T&I probe your mind for any threats from you, but these 3 here have vouched for you, so this will not be necessary. Is this arrangement satisfactory?" Kakura bowed her head slightly. "Hi, Hokage-sama. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity." Hiruzen nodded and produced a black 8 with the Konoha symbol on the metal, as well as a flak jacket. He tossed them to Kakura, who caught both items. "You're quite welcome. Naruto-kun didn't give me much of a choice on the matter, did he?" He looked over to the blonde. "Now on to you, Naruto-kun. I'm sorry, but I cannot make you right away." He ignored the indignant squawk from the reason being that you have no experience in leading teams, you have a lack of any official missions, as those you did on the trip went on Jiraiya and Kakashi's records, because you are not an official shinobi yet, and that you are supposed to work your way up through the ranks. Skipping a rank is very, very rare, and it is hardly ever done. Naruto sighed and looked down. "Great. Genin. That being said, I congratulate you on skipping the rank of Genin and becoming a Chunin of Konohagakure no Sato." The Hokage finished. Naruto's head snapped up to meet the smiling visage of his pseudo-grandfather, holding a black Konoha hit I-8 and a Chunin flak jacket. "But I thought," he said. "I did say it was very rare to skip a rank. You might be the first in Konoha history. I know that I have not personally promoted someone 2 ranks at once. That being said, I expect you to make do with all the missions I will be sending your way. If you want to make it quickly, then I want you to agree to taking more missions than most. Often it takes a few years for a newly promoted Chunin to make. But with the skills I know you hold, I can make an exception like I did today, if you can handle leading smaller missions and the increased workload." Naruto nodded furiously. "I will be Jiji. I promise I will work harder than any Chunin that has been in this village." He took the hit I-8 and tied it across his forehead, which pulled his bangs out of his eyes. "Net Jiji, do I have to wear this flak jacket? It's not really my style. Plus it's not orange." Sanding shrugged. "I guess not. You won't lose rank because of it, but you might be mistaken for a genin because of it. You will need to wear it for official shinobi meetings and council meetings that you might be called to, but other than that you don't have to wear it." Naruto shrugged and sealed it into one of the seals on his wrist. "Now, why don't you all go home and get settled back in? I will give you tomorrow off to be rejuvenated before I have you dive into missions. Plus I have to finish off these last few sheets of this blasted paperwork before the council meeting tonight. I wish I could just set it on a cloud and let it float away into nothingness." "You're starting to sound like Nar, Jiji," Naruto commented with a small chuckle. "Now, why don't you use Kage Bunshin to do your paperwork? You would still get all the memories, so it's not like you aren't doing it," they asked in confusion. The Hokage stood there next to the door with his jaw on the floor. He didn't move. After a few seconds of no response, Naruto tried to get the Hokage to snap back into reality. Or, Jiji. No response. Naruto walked over and started to wave his hands in front of his grandfather's face. "Hello. Anybody home there?" he said, getting the same response, or lack of one, he got before. Jiraiya popped up beside him and poked him with a stick he produced from somewhere. Don't ask where. Seriously. I can't even tell if he's breathing. The Sannin muttered. Is he going to be okay? They asked. The other three in the room just shrugged. That's when Sarutobi moved. He started banging his head against his desk, repeating the mantra. Stupid, stupid, stupid. That's how he did it so fast. The four ninja were confused as hell and tired from their journey, so they just left the geezer to make a very large dent in his desk with his head. Konoha streets. The four shinobi decided to split ways at this point. Kakashi went home to sleep or read his porn, while Jiraiya left to go do some research. So that left Naruto and Kakura to wander the streets. They stopped when they heard Naruto's stomach growl. Hey Ni-chan, you wanna get some food? I think you can tell that I'm a little hungry. She thought about it for a moment before nodding slightly. Sure, I could go for some food. You got anywhere specific in mind? Naruto got a devilish grin on his face. We all know what restaurant he was thinking of. Ichiraku Ramen. Aim was tired. It was around 3 if the sun's position was right, and the lunch rush was officially over. She had been working all by herself in the stand for about a year now, with her father going off to plant another Ichiraku Ramen in Tenzakugai. She had hired a few extra employees here and there to help out, but out of the 2 that were currently employed, one was visiting family in Suna, and the other had come down with the flu. She pulled down the shutters and sat down in the back of the store. After all, it was a hot day, and she needed a break. She didn't feel like going into her apartment that she had adjacent to the back of the decent-sized ramen stand. She sat in the back as she rubbed the sweat off of her delicate arms. She had become quite a beauty. At 18 years of age, she had a reputation with males that most women would wish for. Aim's face had matured a lot since she was a little girl. She had grown out of what little baby fat she had when she was a small girl. She now sported a somewhat athletic figure. She liked to keep her figure and run in the mornings despite just being any ordinary civilian. She had long toned legs, a good size behind, not too big, not too small, and a mid-C cup bust. She wore a white robe with her sleeves rolled up to the middle of her forearms, a blue apron over the robe when she was at work, anyway, and a white bandana to keep the hair out of her face while she worked. The boys, shinobi, and civilians alike were always asking her out and to go to several different events, but she just couldn't do it. Why? She always had a certain blonde in mind. Sure, it could have just been a childish infatuation, but she couldn't let go of it yet. She just remembered how bright and excitable he could be. There never was a dull moment with him around. She didn't see the whole side of Naruto, not that she knew that, but she just wanted to see what he was like now before she could let go of her little crush. Outside the stand, Naruto and Kakura poofed into place right in front of the stand via Shunshin. It's right here, Ni-chan. He looked at the closed shutters and the sign that said that she was on break. She's on break. If I remember right, then they have a small apartment on the backside of the place. There's a little den-like room that connects the 2 that we would hang out in every once in a while. Let's go say hi, even if we don't get ramen, he said, as he led his sister round back. As they started to get around to the back, Kakura asked her younger brother if it would be alright to do this. Naruto waved her off. I'm sure it's fine, Ni-chan. I used to hang out around here with Aim-chan and Tuichi Oji-san all the time. Oh, is this the same girl that Jiraiya-sama said that you had that crush on when you were little, Naruto-kun? Kakura teased with a small smirk. Oh, who's this? Do you have a crush on Naruto-kun? Naomi asked with a dangerous tone in his mind. They had grown much closer in the last year and a half since he met her, but Naruto being the dense guy he is still hasn't made a move. And no, one Naomi-chan. He squeaked out in his mind. Oh really? Naruto just turned away with a slight blush and knocked at the door. Shut up Ni-chan, plus she probably doesn't remember me much anyway, he said as he knocked. Aim walked and opened the door with a frustrated expression, not bothering to look at who was at the door. Can you people see that I am on my break right now? Then she noticed who knocked with white eyes. Naruto looked at her with an apologetic smile. Sorry, Aim-chan. Thought me and Kakura Ni-chan could just say hi real quick. We can come back later though, he said, rubbing the back of his head in a sheepish manner. And Naruto-kun, is it you? The stunned waitress asked. Naruto put a beaming grin on his face as he replied. Yep. Just got back from my trip today and wanted to come by, Tebeo. She immediately rushed forward and gave him a bone-crushing hug. It is you. I haven't seen or heard from you in years. You couldn't think of writing a letter or something? Naruto wrapped his arms around her to reciprocate the hug. Sorry, Aim-chan. I really didn't think about anything like that. Plus, how would you respond if we were always on the move? I guess I couldn't, but you could have written. She then noticed the green-haired woman behind him. Naruto-kun, who is that behind you? She said, as she gestured toward Kakura. Oh, I almost forgot. Aim-chan, this is Kakura Ni-chan. We met her during our trip, and she came with us. Ni-chan, this is Aim-chan. She makes awesome ramen, and was my first friend. They exchanged pleasantries, and after Aim turned to Naruto. So would you two like some ramen? But Aim-chan, aren't you on your break? We can always come back. Naruto replied. No, it's fine. Plus, you haven't had good ramen in over 6 years. We need to rectify that. So Naruto and Takura went and had some ramen in the back of the shop while talking to Aim. They exchanged stories of things that had happened and had sat there talking for a couple hours. At around 5:30, Takura nudged Naruto. We need to get to Jiraiya-sama's house to set up my things. You can come back tomorrow for lunch or something. Plus you have to get ready for your test tomorrow, she said as she stood up and walked toward the door. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'll come back tomorrow for more ramen, Aim-chan, he said as he opened the door. Okay Naruto-kun, see you then. I need to reopen for the dinner rush anyway, she said as she made her way to the counter to reopen. On the way to Jiraiya's, Takura and Naruto were taking their time to get to Jiraiya's. Why hurry when you had nothing to do? Takura eventually turned her head to Naruto. That ramen waitress, she likes you. Naruto almost got whiplash. He turned his head so hard on his older sister. Who, Aim-chan? Takura facepalmed. He could be so dense sometimes. Yes, she likes you. You should ask her to dinner after her shift tomorrow. I can tell you like her. He heard a quiet growl in his head as Takura said this. What do you mean you can tell? Is it that obvious? He said with his shoulders slumping and a slight pink tinge appearing on his cheeks. The growl got a little louder. Maybe not to her or anyone else, but I know you better than most, Naruto-kun. Takura replied. Okay, I'll consider it. But how do you know she likes me? Well, considering she had a blush on her face the majority of the time she looked at you as you talked, it is kinda obvious, she said as they opened the gate to Jiraiya's compound. I don't know, I'll think about it. She shook her head at her brother's indecisiveness and denseness. We can talk about your love life later. Now we gotta get all my stuff moved in until we are able to take your parents' compound. Then we have to do that paperwork for the clan stuff. Naruto sighed. This was gonna suck. And he was going to get an earful about Aim from Nomi later on, if those growls he heard had anything to do with it. Just great. Council meeting that night. In a large room on one of the lower floors of the Hokage Tower, there were 3 groups of people sitting in separate sections of the room. The first group was in 3 rows on the left side of the room facing the door. Many looked disgruntled and were arguing amongst themselves to why they should be in higher power amongst themselves. The people were mainly heavy-set men in fine yukatas made of the finest materials. They all had a stuck-up, snobbish air about them. The women wore primed-up sticks and clothing and jewelry that looked like it cost as much as a building from the poorer districts of the village. On the front row in the first seat was a woman with pink hair and green eyes screeching about the meeting being late to start. This group was the civilian council. On the opposite side of the room were a group of 7 individuals who were simply being quiet and waiting for the meeting to begin so they could discuss whatever issues they had to deal with and go home. The first was a man dressed in all white, dark brown hair going down his back and the signature white eyes of the Hyuga clan. This man was Hyuga Hiashi, the clan head of the Hyuga clan. Next to him was a heavy-set man with long red hair and purple lines on his cheeks. He was the clan head of the prestigious Akamichi clan, Akamichi Chauza. After Chauza was a fair-looking woman with shaggy brown hair and slitted eyes. She was Inizuka Tsume, the clan head of the Inizuka clan. On her left was a man with dark hair and scars on his face who was passed out on the desk, mumbling about troublesome women and their frying pans. This was the ever-so-motivated head of the Nara clan, Nara Shikaku. On the second row of the section was a man who was sitting stoically in his spot with most of his body obscured with some sort of clothing. You would think he was asleep if it were not for the occasional glances around the room. This was Abiram Shibe, head of clan Abiram. Next to him was a man with a blonde ponytail and teal eyes. This was Yamanaka Inoichi, the head of the Yamanaka clan. The last was a man in typical attire with a sash with the kanji Guardian 12 and a cigarette in his mouth. This was Saratobi Asuma, who was required to attend due his father is not only the clan head, but the Sandaime Hokage, and, as such does not get 2 votes. This was the Shinobi Council. The last group was the smallest. It was a group of 4 people sitting in an elevated row with 5 seats behind a large desk-like podium. The first 2 were an elderly pair who were talking quietly between just the 2 of them. A man and woman named Mitakato Himura and Yutanin Kaharu. They were the first 2 of the 3 advisors to the Hokage, and were also the teammates to the Sandaime Hokage. The third was a man with an impassive face that had the majority of the right side covered by bandages. This was the former commander of the supposedly dismantled Rude Anbu force, and the former best friend and rival of the Sandaime, Shimura Danzo. The last was a man wearing a dragon-style mask and standard Anbu attire under a large grey cloak. This was Ryu, the Anbu commander. Next to Ryu was an empty seat. This is the High Council of Konoha, also known as the Hokage's advisors. The room went silent as the doors to the council chambers opened. In walked the Sandaime, with a few files under his arm, along with his old student Jiraiya. Saratobi took the seat behind the large desk podium, while Jiraiya took the seat at the end of the row behind him. Hiruzen sat down and arranged the files in the order he would need them. After he finished organizing, he looked up at the council and cleared his throat before he started to speak. The meeting of the Council of Konoha no Sato has officially begun. We have an important topic that is the sole reason I have called this meeting. The reason being that our current Kyuubi no Yuko is back in the village. I have officially instated him as a shinobi under the rank of Chunin. This got an outrage from the civilian council. There were murmurs among the shinobi council, and the high council just sat there in silence with impassive faces. Well, Ryu had a mask on, and Jiraiya had an amused look on his face, as he looked at the civilian council making asses out of themselves. Sarutobi silenced the room with a short powerful burst of chakra. Now, I am sure that by now you all know the reason Naruto-kun was gone for 6 years. Well, he was with Jiraiya, they traveled the elemental nations training, and did simple missions to make Naruto-kun a strong shinobi. This is also why Hada Kakashi was gone, he went with them. He finished with an inward smirk at the memory of how much the council complained and protested after they had learned that Kakashi was gone to train the young. Hokage-sama asked Narashikaku after standing up, if I may ask, how strong has Uzumaki-san gotten since he left for the trip? Here's inside at the likely shitstorm this would bring. He has gotten very strong. After watching him spar with Kakashi-kun, I would place him, as already in terms of strength. Wouldn't you say to Jiraiya-kun? Jiraiya nodded at the statement. Yes. That is correct. I would say that he could handle any shinobi in this village in a 1 versus 1 battle, with a good chance to come out victorious. I know that in some of the more recent spars, I really have to work to beat the kid. One of the merchants in the civilian council stood up immediately after he heard this. Hokage-sama, you can't seriously let that demon have a rank right off the bat like that. Jiraiya unleashed intense kai when he heard what this man was saying about his godson. You have no right to speak about him in that manner, you fat bastard. He's more important to this village than you ever will be, so don't you go spilling off this demon bullshit around here. The fat man who made the comment scoffed, as if the fox brat were more important to the village than I am. I own 2/3 of all weapon surplus stores in this village, and many other villages around Hi-no-Kuni. I am arguably the richest man in all of Konoha. I have been a member of the civilian council for over 10 years. Humor me, who other than a Hokage could have a higher prestige than I do. The Sandame chose to butt in here. That is the next order of business concerning Uzumaki Naruto. Now we will discuss young Naruto-kun's heritage, inheritance, status in this village. When he said this, Koharu and Himura stood up and protested. You can't be serious, Hiruzen. Snapped Koharu. That is not information that should be disclosed to anyone but us, and you know it. Spat out Himura. Jiraiya laughed from the side. Well, too bad, because the Gaki knows, and is cashing in on his checks. He has also filed to be the clan head. And he's got it. And, by the way, shouldn't you show your leader respect by calling him Hokage-sama? The two on the opposite side of the town from Jiraiya snarled and sat down. Danzo remained there seemingly unaffected by this, but on the inside he was fuming. The Uzumaki brat is going to ruin my plans if he gets what Jiraiya is claiming. Ryu was just kinda there. This time Inoichi stood up. Hokage-sama, what is this about his heritage? Uzumaki-san is an orphan. And clan heads. Does this have to do with this unknown heritage? Hiruzen inwardly smirked. He had his teammates right in the position they wanted them. They officially couldn't do shit now. Why yes it does, Inoichi. Naruto-kun happens to be from a very prominent clan. He is the new clan head, and the sole survivor of the Uzumaki clan. This is because he is the son of Uzumaki Kushina, the last survivor and heir, and Namikaze Minato, our very own Yondaime Hokage. The room was silent. Then the shitstorm was unleashed. Well, by the civilian council. The shinobi council was silent in their spots, processing what they had just been told. The civilian council eventually calmed down, and Haruno Mibuki stood up from her seat on the first row. Hokage-sama, you can't believe that we buy that for 1 minute. For one, they were never married. They wouldn't have had a child out of wedlock, and this surely would have gotten out. She finished with several civilian council members nodding their heads. Actually, Haruno-san, I can witness this. Jiraiya said. I was there, Sensei was there, as was the daimyo. Sensei has his signature on the official wedding document up there. He also happens to have Naruto's birth certificate with Minato's signature and Yondaime Hokage's seal. The Hokage held up both of the documents for all to see, as Jiraiya continued. In these documents, I have been named his official guardian. As such, I was able to take him out of the village despite his status. I was also given the right to tell him of his parents, and give him the full rights to his inheritance left by them, which I did the moment we arrived in Sensei's office earlier today with Sarutobi Sensei's permission, and signature of course. Hiruzen picked off where he left off. The inheritance mentioned includes the money in the accounts belonging to his parents, all properties, and accounts belonging to the Uzumaki clan, the house, and all other properties owned by Minato and/or Kushina, and the library of both of them. And that's not all, Naruto has become the new clan head of the Uzumaki clan. While not one of the major clans in Konoha, one with a council seat, he is now considered nobility in all of Konoha and Hi-no-Kuni, and will have the rights, as all of the other clan heads do. We will reveal this to the public when Naruto-kun wishes. The civilian and shinobi councils were speechless, especially the Mr. Big Shot that had just spoken out against the former clanless orphan. The most disliked street urchin that ever has been in Konoha was now one of the most prominent figures. Not to mention probably the single most wealthy person in the village now. Who else had the whole financial assets of an entire clan to themselves? And this was the thought to get the civilian council to change their views on him real quick. Okizama started Abiram Shibi as he stood. Due to the position of Uzumaki-san, I proposed that the council enact the Clan Restoration Act with him. Jiraiya then stood up quickly. No. You won't do that. As his legal guardian, I will not allow him to be subjected to that against his wishes, no matter how awesome having a harem would be. Danzo finally broke his silence. Actually, Jiraiya, we can enact this law. The law is to be placed under the orders of the entire council. The council is to decide this on a vote, and if it is passed we will have a selection of the women in this harem, as you put it. This time it was Hiruzen who spoke up. Very well. You may vote on this, as there is no loophole I can exploit in the prevention of the law. But there is a loophole that I did find while researching this in case you did choose to enact it. It says nowhere that the council may dictate who the wives of the subject may be, as long as there are at least 3 women by the age of 20. As it stands, I will not allow you to choose who Naruto-kan will marry until the deadline that is stated in the Konoha Charter. Danzo scowled. Another knot in his plans had been formed. He was hoping to get a member of his root Anbu in there to produce a child that he could eventually use. It was a setback, but he could still warm one of his people into Uzumaki's group. It would seem you are correct, Hiruzen. Now we should vote on the act being passed, suggested Danzo. Very well. The Sandaime Hokage then turned to face the councils. The council will now vote on the matter of putting Uzumaki Naruto, head of the Uzumaki clan, under the Clan Restoration Act. All those in favor raise your right hand and say aye. All of the civilian council, the Hokage's advisors except Jiraiya, and half of the shinobi council raised their hands and said aye. The Hokage side. Uzumaki Naruto will, as of now, be placed under the Clan Restoration Act, and must find at least 3 wives by the age of 20, or else the council will assign the proper number of spouses. Well, if that is all for the night, then we will meet again next week for the weekly meeting. But before we adjourn, are there any other issues that need to be addressed? Asked Sarutobi. No one spoke. This meeting is adjourned. Hiruzen then called his former student over to himself. Jiraiya, if you would relay to Naruto the results of this meeting, that would be great. Jiraiya frowned. Sure, sensei. You know he is not going to take this well, right? Hiruzen nodded. Yes, I am aware. At least you can tell him we tried to prevent it. Hell, we found a loophole that at least kept him from loveless marriages for an amount of time. Well, sensei, I guess I have to go break the news to him. I will see you tomorrow. Jiraiya said before he left in a swirl of leaves. Naruto's room 11 p.m. That night. Naruto opened the door to his room and stormed in with an angry expression on his face. He then promptly slammed the door and screamed fuck the council. Who did they think they were? Forcing him into multiple marriages, my ass. Now who would want to be with him? The fact that he was hated by most of the village would deter a good number of girls, but now they had to share. Yeah, that is not what he wanted to hear. He was brought from his thoughts by a slight pulse in his mind. Naomi must need him for something. He then opened the link between the two. You need something, Naomi-chan. Come into your mindscape. I want to talk to you about something, she said as she cut the link. Naruto shrugged and fell back onto his bed. He shut his eyes for the night. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto appeared in the woodland area that was his mindscape. A year or two into his mindscape, his Ka-chan and Naomi said that he should change it up from the Sower the White Room, so he did this. He walked over to the small hut that Naomi lived in. He knocked on the door. Naomi-chan, you decent. He remembered the last time he walked in without knocking. Cue nosebleed. He shook his head to clear those thoughts. Come on in. He heard from inside. He went in and saw Naomi sitting on the couch in front of a small table. She patted the seat next to her looking nervous. Naruto frowned. Naomi-chan, what's wrong? The queen of Biju's sighed. Naruto-kun, I need to talk about something. What is it? You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Naomi nodded. I know, I just don't know how you're going to take what I have to say, she said looking down. Now Naruto may be dense, but he can understand being nervous about something. He grabbed her chin lightly with his thumb and pointer finger and lifted her face up to meet his eyes. When she looked at him, she saw a soft smile on his face. Naomi-chan, you have been my best friend for years. You can tell me anything. I'm sure what you have to say won't change anything between us. The frowned, that's not exactly what she wanted to hear. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Naruto-kun, what do you think of me? Naruto leaned back and tilted his head up in thought. Well, you have been the best friend I have ever had to this point. You have helped me get stronger, you have been patient with me while I was learning things, you heal me when I get hurt, and talking with you, and being around you is fun. Why do I ask Naomi-chan? Well, Naruto-kun, there are a couple of reasons. You know of my father, right? She got a nod. Well, he gave us each tasks on which area to protect. I was given Hai no Kuni, but when he gave me my area, he gave me a little prophecy or prediction about my future. And, well, I can say to a living to you, but that's a very world, she said quickly. Could you repeat that a little slower, Naomi-chan? She nodded with a pink tinge on her face. He told me that I will have a mate in the future. That mate would become the savior of the world. Do you understand what that means, Naruto-kun? Not really. What does it mean? Aka, you are the savior of the world. Do you not remember the reason that you have been training for all these years? Oh, it took a second to process. Oh, now I get it. So, I'm supposed to be your mate. Yes, Naruto-kun. It's you. And I am absolutely sure too. She looked down slightly again. I actually like you a lot, Naruto-kun. You're strong, kind, forgiving, funny, and handsome too. She looked back up at him and giggled a bit. You are dense baka, but that is something that is part of you, and I wouldn't change it. She turned her head away a bit. So, I really like you, Naruto-kun, and I think, no, I'm sure that it is supposed to be you who becomes my mate. Do you feel the same at all? Naomi-chan, are you sure that is me? She nodded. Then I would definitely give the whole relationship thing a shot. I like so many things about you, Naomi-chan. I already told you what I think of you. And well, I meant every word of it. Other than Ka-chan, you are one of the best things that has happened to me. Despite what happened in the past, I am actually kind of glad that my Ka-san and Tu-san gave me the chance to be here with you. So I guess I really like you too. Naomi looked at him with tears in her eyes. I found him, Tu-san. She then tackled him back onto the floor. Thank you, Naruto-kun. He pushed her back off him for a moment and held her at the shoulders. Wait, Naomi-chan. What about the clan restoration bullshit? Do you still want me to become your mate if you have to share me with other girls? Naomi looked at him with a small smile. Now that I have you, I'm not going to lose you. I don't want to share with you, but I'm going to have to. You will be my mate if I have anything to say about it. It just means I have to claim you first, she said with a predatory smile. He nodded his head. Yeah, that makes sense. What? Naruto closed his eyes and grinned as he pulled his new lover closer. Don't you worry, my Benahem, I can ask Ka-chan if she knows a way to get you in and out of the seal. She smiled as she snuggled into him further. I can't wait, Kibito, lover. And with that said, the two drifted off to sleep for the rest of the night, their bodies melded together and dripping with each other's essence. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.